much to take, too much to figure out. Checkmate, nothing to say now. Dead weight, we're on the way down. Now I'm in a free fall with nothing to hold on to. Racing for the end, pray for the win. Just slow down the feeling and let me somewhere new. Staring down the ground, it's coming soon. Wishing I could just free fall into you. Hey yeah, hey yeah. Wishing I could just free fall into you. Wishing I could just free fall into you. Wishing I could just free fall into you.
Alright boys, let's get this show going. Cosmos, huh? I don't know what that is. I tried googling that and it didn't come up. Is it, oh yeah, GTA, that's a good one. Let me see. Cosmos's Lounge. I tried to pull that one up and it didn't come up. It literally didn't come up. Like, here, let me,
Hey, Indy! I'm gonna need...
Cosmos. Spelling that right? Yeah, no, that's right. Cosmos. Is that? Yeah, that's right. I'm just double checking. Is it a game? IGN. Huh? I don't know. Not quite sure what the, I actually haven't done. That's Elden Ring's another good one. Yeah, we'll do that one next too. I need to pull up Star Wars Outlaw. I want to do Star Wars Outlaw first and see the score for that, and then we're gonna shit all over it, and then we'll watch Ghost of Tsushima because I know that there's a few people that have played Ghost of Tsushima, and we'll see where that goes. See how good of a score they give that. That shit should be a perfect 10 out of 10. There's no reason why that game isn't perfect score. I don't give a shit. That game was beautiful. The graphics were amazing. The style was fantastic. The story was phenomenal. They even did their research on the characters. They were accurate characters-ish. You know, obviously they're gonna skew a little bit from the story. To make it more, you know, fun and inviting. I get it. You know, that's the motto of the biz. I understand. IGN. Get the Star Wars Outlaw going. Boom, right there.
I'm gonna need some backup down here.
As
You
far
got
as
audio coming through? Let me double check.
Star Wars video games
Okay, where's my audio? Get my audio, man.
go, we've taken count.
Son of a bitch. That audio? Oh, now it's not even coming through the big TV. Oh.
Powers, but Star Wars Outlaws
Oh, there you
swaggers
go.
into the
Oh, that's
cantina,
loud.
slinks down into a booth with its holster clip
Sorry about that.
unbuttoned, and argues that those are no match for a good blaster at your side.
I've never been a Star Wars
This
fan,
open world, or rather
but I've heard
open
that in
world
general
action
this game just
features a
sucks
level of
ass, and I've
gun
seen the
level
gameplay and it
forces,
sucks ass.
befitting the legend
It sucks
of
absolute
Chewie
ass.
best mate. However, Star Wars Outlaws essentially delivers a Han Solo-like experience in both good and bad ways. It has some handsome looks and a strong sense
There
of
are
adventure,
many
but it's
people
also
that have
somewhat
started this
stuffy around
game
the edges
and didn't
is
even
liable
bother
to
finishing it.
from time to time.
Ooh, Final Fantasy 16, yeah. That's another one. 7 is another one.
Of course, given that it's
That's a good one.
space western story
these
takes
down.
place in between The Empire Strikes
Do
Back and
these.
Return of the Jedi, the actual Han Solo is literally on ice for the duration of Outlaws.
damn it.
Instead, we step into the battered space boots of Kay Vass, a cunning thief raised amidst the hives of scum and
A
villainy.
thief
in
that
the
only
kingdom
steals
of
from cops,
Right.
apparently.
And
Apparently, she's a thief that literally only steals from cops. Don't know what kind of thief that is, but I guess there is honor among thieves, I guess.
accompanied at all times by her adorable pint-sized partner in crime, Nix. Kay's quickly shown to be handy with a hairpin lockpick and has an insatiable appetite for five-finger discounts.
That looks nice, huh, Nix?
Although like Dash Rendar and pre-Jedi Kyle Katarn before her, she never really steps out of Han's shadow and becomes much more than a stand-in smuggler with a heart of gold.
You want it done right? You do it yourself.
I think that's
What
everything.
follows is a 20-hour string of reckless rescue missions and shady underworld dealings. as
Apparently,
Kay
the only
crosses
thing that was really good about the game was that little thing that runs around with you, that little alien thing. Apparently, that's really good. That's really fun to play with.
Major heist and erasing the
Just
bounty
unfortunate they have it in such a tragic game.
Slero. This casino owner serves as Outlaws' primary antagonist and seems suitably callous enough,
You must be Slero.
Your friends abandoned you.
but is neither as outright evil as Emperor Palpatine, nor as quietly menacing as Grand Admiral Thrawn, and is kept at a distance for the most part and only ever encountered in the occasional cutscene.
You're gonna have to do better than that.
Even so, Outlaws' story is a consistently
So
entertaining.
you can't, like, beat his ass
one
outside of the
takes
cutscene? That
characters
kind of
from
sucks.
Recognizable spaces and some entirely new, all while cutting deals with countless colourful criminals, including this surly Celestin mobster on Akiva, who has the audacity to deal out orders to you while putting his feet up on a desk made out of his own carbonite-encased brother.
He took my eye, but I took everything else.
While her end goal may be considerably
Oh.
smaller in scope than, say, blowing
was a
up
rough
a
one
Death
today,
Star,
huh?
the environments Kay's entertaining saga unfolds in are surprisingly large. To be clear, this
spilled
isn't
coffee
No
all
Man's
over herself
Skywalker,
again.
so you don't have the freedom to circle each planet and land wherever you choose. However, with the exception of the comparatively
There's
more
that one
compact
with
city
the
setting
cat
of
too.
Kijimi,
Don't remember the
Outlaws'
name
sandboxes
of the
stretch out
game.
far
Oh,
and
you're
wide
talking
and
about
contrast with each other nicely.
I know what you're talking about.
From the Tatooine to the lush
I don't know the
rainforest
name
of
either.
Akiva, whose network of rivers
like
is handily
fe-
transformed into
it's not
shortcut
feline,
mountain
it's,
highways once you unlock the upgrade for your speeder bike that allows it to skim across the waters.
So there were people that were getting stuck in rocks with that piece of shit, I've noticed. People would get stuck in the rocks and they would, like, even if they loaded the game back, they'd still be stuck in the rocks. Like, that's absolutely game breaking. Like, why?
It's a good thing too that Kay's speeder can be upgraded.
They get stuck in the side of a
since the
mountain.
only vehicle she's able to steer around while navigating each terrain. Despite the fact that in Outlaws' many bustling settlements you can see land speeders whizzing by, saddled dewbacks waddling along, and towering ATSTs chicken walking past, you can't actually ride or drive any of them. Compared with a decade-old Grand Theft Auto 5, where if you can see it, you can probably steal it.
Hey!
Or last year's The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, where if you can find it, you can probably build it. Outlaws comes up shorter than Luke Skywalker in a stormtrooper suit in terms of its list of usable transportation types, which is a bit disappointing for a modern open-world adventure.
Imperial's over there.
Outlaws isn't just about getting from A to B, however. It's also about breaking into and out of various Imperial bases and crime syndicates.
Yeah, like, it's all-
at the behest of the various underworld cohorts that Kay conspires with along the way.
Name's Varric, and I've got a real job for you.
Furry friend Nix is vital to these infiltrations, as he's basically a space cat drone who functions like a watchdog's phone. You can point him at switches to activate while you remain in cover.
Yeah, this is what's really fun about the game, apparently.
Or to briefly divert the attention of security cameras to a
Stray, that's it.
message,
Nix, put on a show.
among several other useful
I'll
talents.
put that one down too.
Kay has her own special set of skills when it comes to sneaking her way into each high security facility. And I never grew tired of the rhythm-based lockpicking, a surprisingly simple yet effective game of Simon Says that has to be one of the snappiest and most satisfying ways to open locked doors and crates that I've enjoyed in a while. Overall, however, Outlaws' stealth is markedly uneven.
What are you doing? You've alerted the station.
Sometimes it's far too easy, like when I was able to do the tried and tested Assassin's Creed distract and dispatch routine on multiple enemies in the same spot.
All right.
The thing looks like an axolotl.
Yet at other times it was wildly unpredictable.
Hey
Like
man, that
somehow
shit
triggering
works,
an alarm
especially in
before
Assassin's
the
Creed if you
takedown,
got high level
even though it appeared
enemies.
that no one else was
Hey, it
around.
works. Well, in Odyssey it works, but
Instead, more often than I'd like, my efforts to remain hidden would evaporate, things would get loud, and a number of other problems would present themselves. Outlaws' combat serves up some solid cover-based shooting with authentic sound effects and punchy smoke and sparks with each blaster bolt impact, but precious little in the way of new ideas. It's less Bad Batch and more basic bitch. It always seemed to be Red Barrel
Damn.
Delivery Day in every combat arena that Kay arrived in, and I used these explosive targets in almost every encounter to thin the Stormtrooper and scumbag hordes. There's always the challenge of knowing when to detonate them to take out the most enemies, but that's the same thing we've been doing for decades, so while it's effective, it doesn't exactly make Outlaws' combat stand out. These simplistic shootouts can also be brought to a faster conclusion.
oh,
by
apparently
using
you can't
Kay's
keep the guns either.
which charges up while she's under attack
Like,
and allows her to slow
The
time
only gun you
targets
keep is like the handgun.
targets,
Everything else you
rapid
drop.
firing burst, almost identical to the Deadeye targeting from the Red Dead Redemption series. It's useful and satisfying for
What
the
the
most
fuck?
part.
Why is that
although
in the
I did
game?
find Kay would occasionally pump some stylish slow-motion blaster rounds directly into the cover in front of her rather than the target I had selected. It felt a bit limiting that Kay can only permanently carry her blaster and grenades in her inventory,
Hey, talking about it right now.
but weapons dropped by enemies can be picked up, used, and discarded once they're out of ammo.
That's stupid.
However, what really irks me about Outlaws' approach to secondary weapons is how much it goes out of its way to make you drop them. Do a melee attack? Drop your weapon. Crawl into a vent? Drop your weapon.
Oh, it's fucking
Climb a
irritating.
wall or a ladder? Drop your weapon. Who programmed this? RoboCop?
Drop it!
If I pick up a sniper rifle, it doesn't seem unreasonable to expect that I should be able to carry it with me up to a high enough vantage point to best put it to use.
Huh.
It's especially annoying given
The
how
fuck
often I was
programmed that
getting killed
garbage?
instantly while behind cover by enemy snipers in elevated positions. Simple and reheated as it generally is, I definitely warmed to the combat a bit more as time went on, particularly once I was able to upgrade my blaster with a couple of alternative shot modes. That
I mean,
effectively
it
gave
still
me three
takes away
weapons to
from the
swap
overall
between,
flow of
even
the
if they
game
were all
because you
coming out of
can't
the same barrel.
you can't even take a sniper rifle up to
Still, at
a
no
perk,
point did this combat
like
system
or like a
ever feel
peek
as flexible or
and
as
take
fun as the
shots.
best
Like,
games in Ubisoft's own Far Cry series.
why even have them in the
Started to get pretty
game?
Repetitive, outside of the rare encounter with pro
Like, that
droids
doesn't
or a
really-
one-off scrap with a
that
rank.
doesn't make the gameplay fun whenever you can't even utilize tools to your advantage. It just makes the game not fun. Why not make the game fun? People want to play the game the way they want to play it, not the way you seem to want people to play it. That's weird. Like, why are you micromanaging people, man? Fuck off with that. Like, it's garbage. We're in 2024. There's so many good games that have blossomed that take away these micromanaging, like, mechanics. Because that's what it is. It's micromanaging. I don't know why they seem to want to control it, but they do. They need to fuck off with that because it's ruining games. It's garbage. Like, get it out. It's crap.
Having said that, I'll take the basic on-foot combat in Outlaws over.
I hate to break it to you, big CEO, but we're not your company, and you can't run us. We just won't buy your piece of shit game. Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. Like, every game that's come out within the past year even, you just throw that shit on your back, man, and you're good to go. Why even have a sniper rifle in the fucking game if you can't even go on a fucking cliff and take shots from lower down? Like, what's the fucking point? Why even have it in the game? to have it in the game, I guess? Who thought that out?
Its
Fuck,
awkward
shit makes no
speed of
sense. Like,
fights
that
in
irritates the
any
hell out of me whenever these devs try to micromanage the player. It pisses me off.
Since this is Star Wars, Outlaws also features space combat, and rarely could I ever emerge from a lightspeed jump in case...
So you gotta put your head in that main character's spot. Now, I've wanted to punch some Call of Duty characters because them motherfuckers need to learn how to run. I can outrun some of those dumbasses, and I'm like half their height. Like, let's be honest here. It's like, whenever you want to make the player experience feel really smooth, you don't want to micromanage, because then you get shit like this. Nobody wants to play it, and learn your lesson. Don't repeat. They're not gonna learn their lesson. They're just gonna repeat it. But
ship and not crash headlong into a dogfight that felt authentic to the films.
You know, it'd be nice to visit a planet that isn't a war zone.
I haven't heard anything too negative about the dogfights in the game, though.
Did offer a nice way to blow off some steam every once in a while, as a break from all the face-to-face skullduggery down on each planet's surface. Although I didn't invest too much in the ship modifications, since the modest challenge presented by my orbital opponents didn't ever seem to increase to any noticeable degree.
Ooh. Got him! Oh, it's Java.
Java, right?
One of Outlaws' most interesting and novel features is its syndicate system, which reminded me of the reputation system used in The Outer Worlds. Basically, you can't really complete a quest over the course of the campaign without pissing off one of the 4 main crime families in order to please another.
You want to make a move?
Cozying up with one cartel might get you cheaper prices at a merchant you're on side with.
How about you let me take this off your hands and I'll throw in a good word for you.
But it'll also rob you of the ability to move about freely within the headquarters of another gang you've slighted.
That sucks.
Hey, you got anything interesting in the back?
That's another mechanic. That's another mechanic that pisses me off. If I'm gonna go through the trouble of trying to buddy up with every fucking people, like all of them, let me do it. It's no scratch off your back as the developer. What does it matter what I do? You're not part of their gang. You are a rogue moving between the gangs. So, like, unless one is just gonna be hostile and shoot on sight, there's no reason to not let the player be revered by all the... You get what I'm saying? Like, you're not solely being like, I'm part of this gang now, unless you want to, which should be an option. And even so, it shouldn't automatically make the rest of them fucking hostile to you, because at the end of the day, any gang member's like, I could utilize that to my advantage. I'm gonna, pay that person a lot of money, and they're gonna go fuck somebody up. And I don't have to worry about it because they're technically not part of my gang. Like, what is the thought behind those systems, though? That always kind of, like, irked me a little bit for some of them.
Out that this isn't Mass Effect. None of the numerous decisions I made seem to make a significant difference to the overall outcome of the story, but they did effectively make me feel like a truly dirty, rotten scoundrel.
Because that always just feels a little overwhelming. And a little, like, what's the word? Stressful. Because, like, whenever I'm trying to do missions for example, if I'm playing Fallout 4 and I do Brotherhood of Steel missions, after a certain point, you get locked out from all the other factions. And it's like, I didn't know that. Why? Now, in Fallout 4... you can befriend all 3 of the factions other than the Institute. You can do that. But it takes away main missions that you would get from each one of them, and endings that you would get from each one of them. So it's kind of like, it has its give and takes, which I really like. Like, the story system, like, how it's built in Fallout is really well put together. They really think about it. It's just... then you get these other games like the Outer Worlds and this fucking shit that just blow it out of proportion. And it's like, oh, you're doing that quest? Go fuck yourself. That's not fun. It's just annoying. It's boring. to be quite frank, it's lame. Stop it.
As I continually reevaluated my allegiances in each deal I made, so that it would best suit whatever my motives were at the
Damn, how
time.
long is this video? I think it was like 14 minutes. Oh, we're almost done.
For example, before I started exploring the surface of Tatooine, I made sure that I'd worm my way into the good graces of the Hutt Syndicate, since Jabba's goons control large swathes of its map, and I wanted to ensure that I could explore it thoroughly without drawing too much unwanted heat.
That's a
Being able
fun
to
mechanic.
explore unimpeded is paramount because Outlaws does such a great job teasing you with secrets to find or opportunities to pursue in an extremely organic way as you move through its 4 main worlds.
I found 2 perfectly good converters in the alley behind the club.
Almost every Cantina conversation I eavesdropped on or discarded datapad I read pointed me towards some new treasure to seek out or gambling tip to take advantage of, and it always felt like I was gleaning some illicit information rather than just being spoon-fed chores to complete, as is the case in so many other open-world adventures.
He hangs around the back alley next to the market.
Where Outlaws' quest design really excels, though, is in taking seemingly innocuous side objectives and spinning them out into exciting, multi-staged adventures that regularly took me by surprise.
Ain't no way they're gonna rate this a 7.
Like when a simple
This
trick
game
to collect a
failed
circle
at
of deck
launch
in Mos Eisley
miserably.
with a series of sharp twists and turns, and
Surely
suddenly
they
I'm
won't.
sliding deep into the bowels of a Sarlacc pit,
We're going in next.
and then thrust straight into an exciting escape from a huge sandworm. It's the lively
Bro. That hoe just popped out of existence.
Sarlacc
Hold on,
pit.
wait a minute.
We're going
That
in
hoe just
next.
popped out of existence. Watch that sandworm. Watch that sandworm. Watch it. It's gonna pop out of existence. Watch. How you slow this bitch down. Watch.
It's
Look,
the
it popped. You see it?
escape from a huge sandworm.
That bitch just framed out of existence. There it went.
It's the lively left turn stretches like these where Outlaws really shines. By stringing together countless Star Wars references and Uncharted style moments of spectacular action and adventure, and there are plenty of quests like this that I've undertaken, and likely many more that I haven't even found yet. However, in order to enjoy moments such as these, you've got to take the rough with the smooth, especially since, as of launch, the PlayStation 5 version of Star Wars Outlaws that I played is plagued by more irritating bugs than a Dagobah camping ground. Over the course of the journey, I saw countless graphical glitches.
Oh my
speeder
God.
bikes crashing to a halt trying to go over jumps, or small hills, or just randomly teleporting entirely. Crucial mission prompts not appearing and forcing checkpoint restarts, and countless occasions where the dialogue audio just dropped out completely.
Hey there.
That's just a few of many examples. So if issues like those sound like they'd force pull you out of the Star Wars universe, it might be best to let Ubisoft blast them off Outlaws' hull like a bunch of cable-chewing Minox before you pick Outlaws up.
Blasters aren't gonna do anything to this thing.
It's ironic that Kay's ship is called the Trailblazer, since there's actually not a whole lot of ideas in Star Wars Outlaws that haven't been done in other action and open-world adventures. Instead, it's quite like the Millennium Falcon, a bucket of bolts held together with repurposed parts and prone to breaking down. But at its best, it's more than capable of jolting your pleasure centers into Star Wars fan hyperspace. A clever syndicate system brings real weight to almost every task you choose to undertake, some of which have truly creative quest designs that can often conjure up some genuinely stunning blindsides. Having a pal like Nyx at your side the entire time not only adds an extra dimension to Kay's fairly generic smuggler character, but also gives her an enhanced set of abilities. But even he can't quite make Outlaws' stealth and combat feel any less rigid or repetitive, and the odds of avoiding the many glaring technical issues present at launch is approximately 3,720 to 1.
Bruh. A 7? Well, someone's trying to say in someone's good graces, I guess. So that game was a joke. It was an absolute mistake. That game was awful. I kind of want to see what the comments are in this now. What do we got as far as comments?
Tell me the odds.
Ain't no fucking way people aren't blazing this shit the fuck up. Did it disable the comments? Oh, no. Oh, the classic 7 rating from IGN. It's their way of saying, we want to rate it less, but we don't want to piss off Disney and lose our media benefits. Darn. Which is terrible, because people go to IGN to decide if they want a game or not. And if they're going to not rate it correctly, I love you, then they don't deserve to be part of that, you know? That's not how that works. You're a review site, a review for games. And if you're not going to review and give the appropriate ranking, you lose what makes you you. Now people are just memeing on you. What's next is people are not going to watch you, and that's a big problem. But that's going to be their problem to solve, not ours. 7, dude, that's disgusting. That is atrocious. A 7 for that? For Star Wars Outlaws. Bro, that shit should have been like a 3 or a 4. There were so many game-breaking bugs when that shit came out. The story sucked, like, no. Just no. No. Alright, we got Ghost of Tsushima. I swear to fucking God. If this is a 7, I'm gonna somebody. Oh wait, what happened? Shit, we should do God of War as well.
Ever since Assassin's Creed started leaping around in time and space, there has been a long-standing itch to see...
This doesn't have a goddamn thing to do with Assassin's Creed! Did I just hear that right?
Ever since Assassin's Creed...
That hurts my fucking soul! That actually pisses me off. I have played most of the Assassin's Creed games. This doesn't feel anything like an Assassin's Creed game. That's bullshit! I already fucking thrown this shit in the garbage. This is fucking trash.
Itch to see an open-world stealth action game set in feudal Japan. Consider that itch.
Sucker Punch has always been better with their fucking parkour abilities. Always. They started it with Infamous. Bullshit.
Beautiful landscapes.
Oh, it pisses me off.
With one of the best blade-to-blade combat systems the genre has ever seen. There are
Assassin's Creed's parkour system has always been shit. At least the originals, like the ones where you gotta press X or square at the right time, and it is in fucking Infamous, they just wanted you to have fun. So you just mashed X a whole lot, and then magical things happen. That's the way it's supposed to be.
It comes to stealth, enemy AI, and a few general minor frustrations, but for just about every moment where Ghost of Tsushima falters, there are plenty more where it soars.
And don't get me wrong, I'm not hating on Assassin's Creed. Unless it's Shadows, then I'm gonna take a fat shit on it, but, you know. What I'm referring to is, to me, whenever I played through all of the Assassin's Creed, the parkour system in Infamous always felt better. It always felt less clunky, and I really appreciated that. But everything else is pretty good. I mean, I never really fully understood the Assassin's Creed, like, stories and stuff. I thought they were a little weird, but it's a give and take. Infamous was very straightforward with its storyline, so...
It's a fictional tale told with fictional characters, but it's based on the very real invasion of Japan by the Mongol Empire in 1274 that began on the island of Tsushima. You take control of Jin Sakai, capably acted by the man in the high castle's Daisuke Tsuji. He starts off as a samurai before a disastrous defeat quickly teaches him that perhaps the honorable but restrictive ways of the samurai code might not be enough to deal with this new existential threat. Ghost of Tsushima revolves around this inner conflict as Jin's formative teachings push up against his need to save his homeland at any cost.
I've never seen a samurai fight like that.
It takes a little while to really get going, but it's a compelling struggle, even if Jin himself isn't the most charismatic of protagonists. The English
Jin. if you're gonna review something, review it the right way. Jin Sakai. Not Jin, it's Jin. They say it so many fucking times. Jin Sakai.
English voice cast is great all around, though it's a shame that the excellent Japanese audio track comes off as a completely cheap dub with wildly mismatched lip flaps. It's not a huge issue, as it's still well worth playing in Japanese, especially to check out the black and white Kurosawa mode in all of its film grain glory. What isn't ever a bummer is the music, which seamlessly shifts from quiet and ambient shakuhachi flutes during stealth moments to thunderous taiko drums once blades start clashing.
The music is so good.
It always enhances whatever emotion a scene is trying to evoke. Ghost of Tsushima's combat is like a witch's brew made with bits of the Batman Arkham series, the pre-Origins Assassin's Creeds, Sekiro Shadows Die Twice, and the entire library of Kurosawa films. And as witch's brews tend to be, the result is magical. From the outset, it's pretty basic. Light attacks, heavy attacks...
I don't like using any of the shadow stuff. I like going up to the fort and like challenging them.
Allows it to remain interesting the whole way through is the addition of stances, each of which is suited to deal with a different weapon type. Also, Wind Stance can do this. Shawn Michaels would be proud. When it's at its best, combat in Ghost of Tsushima...
Did he just... Nuh-uh.
...would be proud. This. Shawn Michaels would be proud.
Okay, Shawn
When
Michaels.
at its best, combat in Ghost of Tsushima is fast.
I thought he said
chaotic,
Kratos would be
tactical,
proud. I was
and
about to
feels
fucking
true the
riot.
fantasy of being a lone, hyper-skilled but outnumbered samurai. The little touches also go a long way.
They're so good, bro. I fucking love this game. I have a platinum in this game. I've beaten it in every fucking difficulty. Like,
always stays really tight so you can get
so
a
good.
view of the action. Enemies have clear audio tells so that even if you can't see them, you know when to dodge or block. And fatal attacks often end like this.
That's the last of them. It's over.
But the most rewarding part is that there's no traditional level-based stat progression, which is great, and here's why. When you get stronger in Ghost of Tsushima, it's not because invisible numbers went up and now you deal more damage and take less when you're hit. It's because your techniques got better and now you have new, better ways of dealing with tougher enemies, like blocking attacks that you couldn't block.
The fuck you talking about? Every time your health goes up, you fucking... Nope, we're gonna watch it. We're gonna watch it. We're just gonna watch it.
Learning to use those techniques effectively feels awesome.
Your health goes up every time. Usually, whenever you find bamboo, you get more stamina. You find a little spring, and you take a dip. Your health goes up, which helps.
5 levels higher than you, or
it's kind of hard to say which traditional levels, cause like so many games do so many different leveling systems. You can't really say anything's traditional anymore. Like, you know?
It's chopping down a sword equivalent of a bullet sponge. This system really impressed me because Ghost of Tsushima's difficulty always managed to feel appropriate no matter what point of the campaign I was at.
That's what I really like about the difficulty, is that even if you get one hit, you one hit. I admire that. That's good.
Improvements from gear always felt secondary to the skills that you accumulate, and the challenge always felt fair, even when I bumped the difficulty up to hard mode, which makes enemies more aggressive, but it never took away from the lethality of my sword. It's a good thing that the blade-to-blade combat in Ghost of Tsushima is so good, because Jin's ninja-inspired stealth does not hold up its end of the bargain.
Oh,
It
fuck
works
yourself.
on a very basic level, but the real problems arise once you get spotted. Enemies just don't know how to handle it.
I love those bamboo shoots. They're so fun. So what you're telling me is that you suck at the game. That's obviously a bug, dude. You can't fucking critique a bug.
The AI just throws up its hands and shrugs. Jin's stealth tools are also very rudimentary and don't allow you any sort of
It's not game breaking, brother.
A little more exciting.
Stop critiquing non-game breaking bugs.
The versatility of the melee combat is found in the stealth
They're
game.
funny, but like...
Fortunately, Ghost of Tsushima offers a way to make going loud right out of the gate just as advantageous as picking off a handful of
Whoa,
enemies
fuck!
noticed. And it does so in the best possible way, by staying true to its samurai.
I love those. Yeah, get
At the
him!
beginning of most combat encounters, you can trigger a standoff, which allows you to target one of your enemies in a classic showdown where you've got to wait for them to make a move to attack, and then strike with one of your
That shit
own
gets
to take them down.
hard later on.
You can even chain standoff streaks to take out more enemies. By the late game, I was taking 5 enemies out at the start of every fight. Of course, there is risk involved. If you lose, your health is drained to almost nothing, and you're surrounded by a bunch of angry men with sharp weapons. So it's an all-around fantastic mechanic that not only fits with the samurai theme, but also takes the fun but typically disastrous tactic of just waltzing in through the front gate of an enemy encampment and makes it potentially just as rewarding as stealthily clearing out a bunch of guards. Open world games can often feature some of the most beautiful virtual landscapes there are, and Ghost of Tsushima is right up there with the best of them. It may not quite meet the promise of its 2018 gameplay reveal trailer, but this is still a stunningly gorgeous game with great open world design. It takes care to not disturb the view with obstructive UI to point you towards locations of interest, and instead uses subtle cues to direct you. Side quests are more interesting than usual because there are actually several different types. The first and most common are your typical garden variety tasks called Tales of Tsushima. These are largely forgettable, but at the very least they don't feel like they're just being churned out and used as padding. More often than not, they're thoughtful enough to take unexpectedly dark turns and occasionally present interesting gameplay scenarios that you won't see anywhere else. One level above that are the multi-part character-specific side quests that basically span the entire campaign. These quests serve to give each major character their own story arc and let them reflect an aspect of Jin's own journey. It's very interesting to see both how they develop and the impact they have on his own development. Some of the later ones are especially touching and deal with some pretty heavy subject matter. One in particular makes exceptional use of Ghost of Tsushima's scouting mechanic in a very clever and emotional way.
I'd never use that, yo. The only time I ever used that was part of the fucking, the main story. Or the side story.
Build or a build centered around terrifying your enemies. In the early going, these charms were a great incentive to
I like getting the charms too, those are fun. Those are really cool.
Later on, the Tales of Tsushima lost much of their appeal from a reward standpoint. Finally, there are the mythic tales. These are epic side quests that are obtained by listening to a musician tell their story via these awesome animated Sumie cutscenes. Their rewards are among the best you can get, but even without those incentives, these quests are still some of the best moments in all of Ghost of Tsushima.
I love the arena fights, they're so cool.
And something that I especially appreciate as someone who's not typically big on collectibles is that every major collectible has both a worthwhile reward and a fun mini-challenge tied to it. Whether it's the button-pressing challenge of the bamboo strikes, or the signature Sucker Punch-esque platforming sections leading to shrines, I was always eager to seek them out. When I was done, I looked for a New Game Plus, but there is none. So post-game wise, there's not much to do outside of hunting collectibles and finishing up leftover side quests. Also, replaying from the start on either a harder difficulty or in Kurosawa mode is a little aggravating because you can't skip cutscenes. Finally, can we talk about photo mode for a second? I've been dying to talk about photo mode all review. Ghost of Tsushima's photo mode is one of the best I've ever seen, partially because the world is just so pretty, but also because of the unique touches that Sucker Punch added. Like
That's
the
pretty
ability
cool.
to have animated background environments, or to add a large selection of particles like leaves, fireflies, or even songbirds. My one disappointment is Jin's emotions, which, well, lack emotion.
Ain't no fucking way they gave this thing anything less than a 9.
Ghost of Tsushima is an enormous.
I don't care about what you're saying right now. What did you give it? What did you give it? What did you give it?
All around. Samurai
Okay.
slashing.
I'll take it. I'll take it. I'll take it. I would have settled for... I said I'd settle for a 9, and I'll take it.
Favorite shots from photo mode. And for more Ghost of Tsushima, check out 18
I'll take
minutes
it.
of 4K gameplay. And for everything else, keep it
We
here.
should do God of War. But first we're gonna get some of these other ones. Let's see, we got... let's do Elden Ring. Let's do Elden Ring. Let's see how fucked up they made the Elden Ring review. Yeah, I don't think they had any quarrels with Elden Ring. I don't think they did. I could be wrong, but... Whoops. Elden Ring review. We'll do the Elden Ring review, then the DLC. This one? Yeah, here we go. One of the real things that I really admire about this game that's kind of new to PlayStation 4 to 5 is that almost anything you see, you can just go to. I love that mechanic. I don't know why, but it kind of just tickles me to think about, like, that tree over there. I'm fairly certain is the yellow one on the left-hand side. I'm fairly certain that one is it's one of those tree bosses, and you can just go to it, and then you just look up at the tree, and you're just like, oh, this is from that one spot.
Me to beat Elden Ring, I was put through an absolute ringer of emotion. A fair amount of sorrow for the hundreds of thousands of lost EXP stolen by some of the toughest boss encounters From Software has ever conceived. A lot of anger, especially at these assholes. Ooh, I hate these guys. And exhilaration from finally getting through that battle.
You know how good I am at this game.
But more than anything else, I was in near constant awe.
I can honestly say it's definitely a skill thing.
By the sheer scope of an absolutely enormous world, by the frequently harrowing enemies, and by the way in which Elden Ring nearly always found a way to reward my curiosity with either an interesting encounter, a valuable reward, or something even greater. Software takes the ball that The Legend of...
So I will say, Elden Ring dropped the ball for me with one mechanic. One mechanic. It doesn't have true crossplay. That's the one mechanic that it dropped the ball for. I can't give it a solid 10 because of that. It claims it has cross-platform, and it doesn't. I can't give it a solid 10, but I'll give it a solid 9, and it won't ever move for me. Ever. That's the only problem that I have with this game. That's it.
Of Zelda Breath of the Wild got rolling and runs with it, creating a fascinating and dense open world about freedom and exploration above all else, while also somehow managing to seamlessly weave a full-on Dark Souls game into the middle of it. It shouldn't be a surprise to anyone that Elden Ring ended up as one of the most unforgettable gaming experiences I've ever had.
It's funny, they must have put the names on these before people started fucking up at IGN. So,
To set the stage, all you know from the outset is that you play as a tarnished of no renown, blessed by grace, and are compelled to make the journey to the lands between and become an Elden Lord. What that actually means, how one might go about doing that, and what the deal is with that giant glowing...
Is this on PlayStation 4? Why does this look like such shit? Like, why does this look like shit? I've always played this on PlayStation 5, so I don't know what it looks like on PlayStation 4. It was one of the first games I got for PS5.
Are all things that you have to discover for yourself. Like other FromSoft games, the grand story is hard to fully digest on a first playthrough, but it's a story that I nonetheless enjoyed trying to piece together for myself. It ended up being the organic side stories that kept me most enthralled rather than the grand overarching...
This has to be on PlayStation 4, it's too blocky.
Martin as its scenario writer. FromSoft smartly doesn't change much in its approach to these from the Souls games, Bloodborne, or Sekiro. You'll just naturally meet characters as you explore and discover the world and become involved in their problems. There are no exclamation point markers on the map, no waypoints to guide you to them, and these characters don't always flag you down or initially want or need anything from you. They're just people with their own agendas and goals, whose stories are impacted
that guy's an asshole.
Actions or inactions. That was actually kind of refreshing in an open world as vast as this one, and it was always exciting to see a familiar face pop up again later, as I was eager to learn about what brought them to this new part of the world and how their journey had progressed. The trade-off, of course, is that without any markers, quest log, or journal, it becomes very easy to forget about certain plot threads and accidentally leave them unresolved by the end. That's a bummer, and I've already felt regret about missing out on stories that some of my colleagues have had, but for me it was worth it, because even after 87 hours, I never once felt the open world fatigue that usually sets in when my brain gets overloaded by a map absolutely full of unresolved side quest markers. Besides, any missed quests give me extra incentive to continue onto New Game Plus. Freedom is the word that every aspect of Elden Ring's design connects back to.
Yeah.
From the moment you set foot in Limgrave, the first of many interconnected regions of the lands between, you are—
Why does that fucking guy look like, he looks like old boy from, that one Souls game, Liza P. Why does he look like Liza P?
To go wherever you want. And sure, that's far from
With that haircut, man.
but the way it's handled here is truly extraordinary. If you wanted to, you can be an explorer and spend hours upon hours in just Limgrave, delving into every mini-dungeon, fighting every boss, discovering every NPC, and leveling yourself up to better prepare for what's next. Alternatively, you could follow the Light of Grace, guiding you toward the main path and the first major dungeon. Or you could find a hidden path to a new region that's meant for higher levels and completely bypass the first major dungeon entirely. Maybe even steal yourself a cool weapon early while you're there. Again, this is not unprecedented, but a few things set Elden Ring
I'd say
apart
that
from games
too.
like Skyrim that provide a similar openness. For one, Elden Ring doesn't scale enemy levels to your own at all, so jumping into a later region means you're always dealing with stronger enemies, making the risk-reward prospect of doing so very real. But perhaps more notably, the way its different areas are connected makes finding these new ones more than a simple matter of choosing—
Yeah, I know, right?
Heading towards it.
There's always so many, like,
specifically with a main path in mind,
little Easter eggs in the game.
Castle. And finding a way around that feels like you've truly discovered a hidden passage or alternate route. Which is
Like, when you play the game to a certain extent, it's not a very big game, but it's a massive game.
Any previous FromSoft game, thanks to a bunch of familiar new systems.
It's a weird thing. It really is.
To avoid detection, or more easily sneak up for a backstab. You can fight on horseback. You can craft items on the fly. You can summon a huge variety of creatures to fight for you, and most substantially, you can equip Ashes of War to your weapons and completely change their affinity and skill. The most important element of Elden Ring's philosophy, though, is the freedom to just walk away and do something else when you hit a wall. Elden Ring is hard, which is to be expected from a FromSoft game, but its difficulty surprised me, even as a veteran of the Souls-like genre. I hit multiple points, even all the way up to the moment I reached the very last boss, where I had unlocked paths to several bosses and simply could not make headway on any of them. But even though I hit dead ends on those paths, there was always somewhere else.
He died to that boss? I don't think I've ever died to that boss, even in like the New Game Plus modes. I always fucking like 3-hit him.
I was at a complete loss of what to do. And every time I explored those other regions and followed those paths, I would find new gear and items, level up my stats, or learn new spells or skills that would eventually give me the extra edge I needed to power through a boss that had given me problems. It isn't just the promise of making my numbers go up that called me to turn over every stone on the map. The lands between is positively brimming with riches.
Are there any game-breaking bugs? I don't think there was anything that, like, broke the game, right? Damn, it's been so long I don't remember.
Games that came before it. It's that same feeling of starting out in a world with little—
Oh yeah, I'm gonna do the DLC after this. The DLC, I'd imagine, didn't have the best review at launch. It was fucking hard.
The big difference is that in Breath of the Wild, I could usually predict what's gonna happen when I get to that—
How in the fuck are you comparing this to Zelda? I can understand fucking the Dark Souls. This is a Nintendo game. What are you doing, bro?
That orange glowy thing off in the distance. I'll do a puzzle, unearth a shrine, do another puzzle, and probably get a cool temporary weapon and spirit orb. That's not to take anything away from Breath of the Wild, it was awesome, but that pattern became somewhat routine by the end. In Elden Ring, by contrast, very rarely did my predictions ever come true.
Okay, I see what he's doing. I take that back. I take it back, I was wrong. I apologize. I take it back.
Follow a river expecting to collect some minor crafting materials, only to find a dungeon filled with enemies and traps. Enter a cave and get jumped by little goblin men. Or take a seemingly unimposing elevator and find that it just keeps going down further and further and further until, well, you'll have to get there yourself to find out. Best of all, each of these little excursions rewards your curiosity with something worthwhile. That could be a new weapon, a new Ash of War, a valuable consumable.
I'm going to disagree with that statement. A lot of those dungeons, unless you know what the item is, they're completely fucking worthless to your build. Like, let's be honest here. At most, you'll get levels. Maybe some crafting materials that you'll use. But for the most part, a lot of those dungeons are just useless. They're fun. I love dungeon delving in Elden Ring. I fucking love it. But, useful, let's be honest with ourselves.
Or a new NPC to talk to. There are so many valuable rewards available that I never felt disappointed by my prize, regardless of the amount of effort it took. But the thing that's most impressive about Elden Ring is that in between all of this brilliant open world design...
Okay, so that section to me, that section right there, looks a lot like Dark Souls 3. Whenever you first get to the castle, that section, even whenever I played it, I was like, holy shit, is this Dark Souls? I know the devs would probably kick me in the ass if they heard me say that, though they wouldn't fucking care. I mean, shit, I streamed to what, 2-3 viewers a fucking day? Like, come on. But it's funny. It's just funny. I mean, you can see where they got the idea from. It's obvious. Just in this little, like, boxed-in area.
That still deliver those wide linear levels that Souls fans have come to expect. These are gigantic castles, forts, manors, underground...
I think there's like one castle and one manor, man. Let's calm down. Calm the fuck down. There's a castle and a manor. Calm yourself.
They could probably exist on their own as Dark Souls.
And maybe there's like a few little tiny brick castles here and there that remind you of like Illager fucking hours, but they're not a whole lot going on there. Usually.
As far as combat goes, Elden Ring is certainly closest to Dark Souls 3 when compared to other games in From Software's
I can see that, yeah.
of action RPGs characterized by weighty attacks, careful stamina management, and a bit of a slower pace than games like Bloodborne and Sekiro. The two big new additions are the ability to use a guard counter by blocking an attack with your shield and then immediately pressing the strong attack button to follow up with a crushing strike that can leave weaker enemies in a crumpled state.
That's an Ash of War.
Melee wielders a new type of heavy attack that can also be used to stun enemies and leave them open for a critical hit. They're both great additions that offer melee classes fun new tools, but for the most part, From Software...
Oh shit, did you know that some guy was trying to sue them? The game being too hard? Shit. I feel like those games wouldn't mash very well because if you had the main character in Wukong and Elden Ring, the bosses probably wouldn't be able to hit you because of the dodging. Like the stamina was never a problem in Wukong. Ever. Very seldom did I ever have to worry about the stamina in Wukong. So, like, I feel like that would be a borderline cheating. And then if you put a character you made from Elden Ring into Wukong, you just get fucked. Especially with some of those ring abilities that the bosses have. Fuck, dude, there's so many bosses where I couldn't stop dodging. Otherwise, I would just insta-die. So, like, I can see that being a problem. No, parrying wasn't easy. Not until I changed that setting that, like, is like, it was something to do with graphics, I guess? I don't even know. It was weird. It was a weird setting in Wukong. I don't even know what it was, but whenever I changed that, it was game-changing. It was like night and day. I was able to parry and dodge, and it was great.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it approach. What really makes the combat in Elden Ring so good, though, is its enemy design and variety. Not only are a fair number of them horrifying, but some of these baddies are absolutely vicious, coming at you with wild swings and combos that seemingly go on forever and can hit from 10 feet away. Yeah, like that. And he's still going. Others are more methodical and hide behind their shields to wait for the right opportunity to either parry you or catch you while you're winding up. Others still are weak, but can be huge threats when they ambush you with a grab that kills you in one hit. Many are designed to punish those who just mash the dodge roll button without care, which makes Elden Ring a very hard game.
Oh, that's the Moonriv Karen Knight. That guy's an asshole. Fucking hate that guy, man.
Though those certainly help, and more about learning, adapting, and finding the.
That's the one that's at the castle or the school
is a large part of why
before the mage boss fight. That dude's a dickhead. I hate that one. That one and the one in the DLC, dude, they fucked me up. I hate those mobs.
Has ever crafted.
He didn't talk about the music.
It is no exaggeration.
The music is fucking fantastic in this game.
And most ambitious game yet. And that ambition has more than paid off. Even after 87 hours of blood, sweat, and tears that included some of the most challenging fights I've ever fought, and innumerable surprises, there are still bosses that I left on the table, secrets that I've yet to uncover, side quests that I missed out on, tons of weapons, spells, and skills I've never used. And this is all on top of PvP and cooperative play that I've barely been able to scratch the surface of. Throughout it all, while the fundamentals of combat haven't changed much from what we've seen before, the enormous variety
Knights?
of
The boss knights?
And
oh, you mean the
to a new level. Even with all the
can't think of the names. They're the Dragon Knights, those ones?
Of which I'm sure there will be several. What I was treated to can easily be held among the best open world games I've ever played. Like The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild before it, Elden Ring
Stop comparing it, dude. Hey, I'll take that. I'll take that. That's a score higher than I gave it. Again, the only reason why I say 9 is because it doesn't have true crossplay.
Keep it here on IGN.
That's the only reason. I can't, as a PlayStation 5 player, play with someone who's on PC or Xbox. I can play with someone who's on PlayStation 4, but that's not true cross-platform. But other than that, that's the only reason. I can't go higher than a 9. That's the -1 that I have to allot that game. Oh, here we go. I have to. I don't have a choice. The principle. Especially whenever I get on stream and I'm like, I can help people. Haha, no you can't, bitch.
Because it's an incredible game, but also because it raised the bar for open world games as a whole. The way it encourages
Crucible Knights, yes. That's the one I was thinking of. I called it a Dragon Knight, I don't know why, but the Crucible Knights, yes. Those guys can be annoying.
And other build options.
Because if you stay, like, there's a set area you have to be with those fucking assholes. If you're too close, their ranged attacks they'll destroy you. If you're too far away, they'll, like, do some crazy shit. So, like, you have to stay. I kind of figured it out a little bit before I stopped playing. If you stay, like, maybe, like, 2 or 3 steps away from his shield, he doesn't know what to do. It's like there's an invisible box there he can't see. And you can just fuck him up. It's great. Because he won't, like, back off of you, and he won't try to, like, swing at you. It's weird. It's the weirdest box. And you can just sit there, and you want to circle behind him. If you can circle behind him, you can backstab him. Or you can parry him if you have a parry shield. That's what I've found is the easiest way. If you're really having a lot of trouble with those guys, that's what I did. And if you have a shield, just throw that fucking shield up and just keep circling around him. You get him eventually. Straight up. Oh, that's the wrong button.
Absolutely exemplary. Now, From Software is back to raise the bar on everyone yet again. This time when it comes to what you would expect from a simple DLC.
Damn, at some point I gotta get back in and finish out that, New Game Plus, I think I was on 5, I gotta do 2 more? I gotta do 2 more New Game Pluses? I'm gonna be so rusty at it.
Than many full-price games. Its unexpectedly large realm is filled with new secrets, new
I never
discoveries,
could find that ability. I could never find that Frost Stomp ability. And whenever I finally found it, they nerfed it. That Frost Stomp ability used to demolish enemies. Oh, by the way, the fingers don't like fire. If you fight them with fire, they just get melted.
unexpectedly
They're
large
very
realm
weak to
is filled
fire.
with new secrets, new
Those finger
discoveries,
boys, they
a
don't
ton
like
of
fire.
build options to experiment with, as well as some of the most challenging and unforgettable boss battles Souls fans will have ever seen.
So, FormSoft did openly admit that they purposefully, and I'm not nodding them, it's their game, they do what they want, that they made this the hardest released anything they've ever done. And I think they apologized for it by giving it some nerfs, but they did openly state that it was the most difficult thing that they made to date. So you probably can. I mean, for the most part, once you start getting into like New Game Plus 5 and 6, like especially whenever I was in New Game Plus 5, the Mimic just gets obliterated, dude. He's just like... So, you pretty much do solo the boss at the end. Like, for most of the bosses, you do end up soloing them when you get to the higher difficulties because the Mimic just gets shredded. They do so much fucking damage and you can't upgrade the Mimic anymore, so... He's a nice little, like, buffer for, like, a little bit, but then he just dies.
I strolled into Shadow of the Erdtree thinking that I was some kind of Elden Lord badass, having defeated Melania, Moog, Plasudasax, the Elden Beast, and every other big threat around. My level 150 character was armed with fully upgraded...
Shit, I started that DLC with a level 250 fucking character. And you know what I really fucking like about FormSoft's take on this? It didn't fucking matter what level your character was. You got annihilated because you need to get those shards. That's what solves it. But people didn't know that and they were panicking. Shit's fucking hard. But they fixed it. I do like that. It was annoying at first, but once I understood what the fuck I needed to do, all fell into place. I was like, oh, let me just get these then. I'm not gonna fight anything. Give me these things. Problem solved.
The maximum number of flasks, but let me tell you...
And I do appreciate they carry over into the next game. I don't have to refine them every time. I like that. Damn! Got fucked up!
Even though the only...
Okay. I would like to say one thing that I would change about the DLC. When you fight the furnaces and you beat them, the first go around, they don't drop anything the second go around. There's no point in killing them. They need to add like a reason to keep killing them. It's kind of that, like after you beat them the first time, they're just there as an annoyance. And it's kind of annoying.
For the realm of shadow to humble me.
I want to see more of a reason to take those down in later games.
The requirement to access the new areas is to beat Radon and Moog, which, granted, is no small feat. You're gonna want to over-prepare before stepping foot into this new arena.
Damn. Yeah, that happened a lot. Before you get those, like, Erdtree shards or whatever, bro, like, I was getting one hit by everything. Like, everything would either one or two hit me. Shit hurt. Like, for the mode, I think even with all the Erdtree fragments, like, if you don't have a shield or really good dodging reflexes, you're kind of fucked.
Definitely skirts the line.
Like, you don't even have to use the shield and spear tactic. You could just have a shield just to take some of that fucking damage off of you. The Two Moons was really cool. I liked that. That was a nice touch. Like, the boss designs were so fun. So fun. The Radon fight was very stupid at first, but once I got a feel for his tactics,
Erdtree has them in quantity too. According to our count, there are
It felt less like I was having a seizure and more like I was fighting a boss. That guy can suck a dick. That motherfucker right there can suck a dick. That thing made me rage quit. Because what he would do before they fucking pulled his ass and put him behind the tree line was whenever you would go through the door, he would immediately mow you the fuck down and take half your health. Fuck that boss. Fuck everything about that boss. That boss gives me PTSD. Fuck that bull riding bitch.
It may not seem like the realm of Shadow is that big, but it is incredibly dense because it's stacked in layers. Paths lead upwards towards ruins suspended in the sky, others delve deep beneath the surface, and some even put you in directions that you might not have believed you can even be pulled.
They changed that a lot about almost all the bosses in this DLC. You see, when you'd go through the door, all the bosses would be right up in your face. So, like, I think that whenever they finally changed that, it made the DLC way more manageable. Like, that was the number one thing that I had a problem with every boss fight in the DLC. The minute you walked through, even before you got done with the animation, you were already being hit. And it matters, because when you're already being hit, and it takes 2 hits to kill you, you're pretty much dead the minute you walk in the arena, if it's not the first time you fight the boss. It's like it gets infinitely harder if you die to the boss the first time. I didn't like that at all. But they did change it, thankfully. And that made it way better.
You might
So,
find a hidden ladder tucked away
props to
in one
you.
corner of a castle rampart, only to follow that trail for an hour before it eventually
Oh
spills
yeah,
out
no.
into a
You need those shards, that's a game changer.
accessible area.
I mean, you don't necessarily need them, you could play without them, but
I
why?
never felt lost or
Why would you
unsure
do
of
that to
where I should
yourself?
go
Are you
next.
fucking sadistic?
The main
Like, come
goal
on.
of this DLC is to follow the footsteps of the demigod Mikola, who left his flesh behind and fled to the realm of Shadow. These footsteps are marked by large crosses that elegantly serve as subtle signposts to let you know when you're in the vicinity of a plot-critical path, without it ever feeling like your hand is being held as you're...
I can honestly say, even with all the Shadow Tree fragments, there are some bosses in the late games, like in New Game Plus 4, 5, 6, and I'm sure 7 is going to be bad. I just dread getting to them. Mesmer. I dread getting to Mesmer, because I always got in the back of my head there's going to be a point where I can't beat this asshole. He's just too fucking strong. And a lot of that has to do with him and his fire attacks. They do so much damage, and it's like a magical fire too, so like, there's not really much you can do about it. It's kind of crazy.
One explicit direction.
Were you guided here by kindly Mikola?
Apart from the main quest, there's a host of new NPCs, including 7 followers of Mikola that you'll encounter at various points in the journey. Each of them have their own small quest line that ties into the main story, and those can even have an effect on some of the later boss battles, depending on your actions.
I fucking love that guy. Bale! Why? Whoever voice acted him needs a fucking raise.
Compared to some of the scholars
They need a
out there,
raise.
even
They're not
moderately
making enough.
knowledge of the deeper plot,
We
let
need
me
more like him.
Some of the fantastic, eye-opening revelations towards the end of the story.
Form soft!
that are well worth
We need more like Bale.
It
We
took
need
me
him.
about 25 hours or so to beat the final boss of Shadow of the Erdtree, but I could easily see myself putting in another 50.
Yeah, that was another problem that I had with Mesmer.
playthrough. I still have a handful.
I mean, he
of
doesn't like
places I
constantly do it, but the breaks that he gives you,
I haven't fully explored.
it
but
like,
skills I haven't
and
gotten
that's the
around
issue
yet.
that I can see with Mesmer is like at a certain point, you're just not gonna have the stamina.
Like when I reviewed the base game after about
All your stamina is gonna be eaten up by blocking
Shadow
like
of the Erdtree
the
is
attacks.
essentially a mini Elden Ring adventure. It condenses the whole experience down to something comparatively compact.
Shit, man, I got tired of using everything else. This one with the fucking shield and spear.
Who thought I'd seen it all?
It works, so like,
While I haven't had any holy shit moments of awe, like the first time I took the elevator down to the Shifra River, exploration and discovery throughout the Realm of Shadow is still a delight thanks to its stellar art design.
those two areas are really hard for me to comprehend. That red flower area, the grave and whatever, and that blue flower area,
8 brand new weapon
the area where those two split, I don't know why, I have such a hard time with that section.
to giant Odachi samurai swords. My favorite of the new arsenal, though, is the light greatsword, specifically the Milady. True to its name, the Milady has a very regal-looking moveset with
Oh,
combos
whoa.
that flow nicely into each other and hit hard, but are also relatively fast compared to actual greatswords. For me, it's a sweet
That's a
spot.
great sword? I
Actually
couldn't
swapped
use
off
that
my
sword.
powerful dual-banded
There's no way.
sword bleed build to instead rock a strength and dexterity focused build using one of these, and found great success for the majority of the DLC.
I can say that Elden Ring is one of those games. I'm fairly certain Dark Souls is as well. Where, like, when you get to a certain point, you really don't have a build anymore. You can just use whatever you want. Because your character's so fucking high level that, like, level 60 anything doesn't matter. Like, I don't know, but maybe that's just me. I just feel like at a certain point, you don't... God damn. This is only a 10-minute video, but I keep pausing it. I got so much input for the Elden Ring games.
Ancient dragon smithing stones of both the standard and somber varieties. However, in all my travels, I found that while the
Fire, brother.
are fun, I mean, there's certainly an appeal to going hand-to-hand against an army of hands, none of them ultimately measured up to the strength of the weapons I carried over from the base game.
I never did try the perfume. Maybe I should try the perfume after I get through New Game Plus 7.
To really make the new one sing, but I was hoping
Maybe I'll do that after Ghost of Tsushima. I'll try to drop back into Elden Ring and finish out those new games. I may have to play a fucking new game altogether.
Still, variety is the spice of life, and Erdtree is one hot dish. Not only are there a ton of new weapons, there are also plenty of new spells, Ashes of War, Spirit Ash summons, and talismans.
Those guys gave me trouble. Those knights on the horses like that, those things suck.
Two-handed attacks, one that decreases spellcasting time dramatically, but causes you to take increased damage, another that increases the damage of abilities that involve stances, and another still that increases your damage every time you defeat an enemy. And yes, there are also plenty that are just better versions of very useful talismans that you probably already have. And there's no shame in sticking to what works. There are so many fun new builds that I couldn't help but larval tears.
And there's another problem I'd like to point out. There's a huge problem that I'd like to point out. With every new game, your stamina ratio changes. I don't know if you've noticed that, but when you get past a certain point, items that you were able to priorly equip, way more. I didn't know that. That's a thing that is very problematic in my opinion. Now, I wonder if in the new game, if I re-got those items, they'd weigh less, but I doubt it.
A little more freely. I started to run out by the time I finished the campaign, and I still have a ton of different builds that I want to try.
I've heard good things about the punch and kick. I watched a guy like kill Mesmer within like 3 minutes with the blood fists.
Right from the get-go, you're able to head anywhere you want to. You could follow the initial
The like star fist things.
Dungeon called Bellarat and deal with the new.
They're really fast, which really helps out with a lot of these bosses because a lot of the bosses' movements are so fast.
Where you have to deal with this jerk. Or
that guy. I don't like the Karen Knights. They're fucking hard. I'd rather take on a normal boss than a fucking Karen any day. I get it. Oh, the Karen jokes.
Bosses, or going through one of its other exits to explore otherwise inaccessible parts of the map. It's a liberating sense of freedom.
I worked in retail, so I can make that joke. Aha.
Just on a scale that isn't quite so vast. Of course, whether or not you should make a mad dash towards the Shadowkeep is another question entirely. Even though this is endgame content and you probably won't be leveling up quite as fast as you did in the original campaign, there's a separate power scaling system that only works while you're within the realm of Shadow.
Yep.
Scattered throughout the lands are Skadu Tree fragments that you can collect and turn in at Sites of Grace to increase your overall damage and resistances. Likewise, you can also find revered.
Those are pretty much key to beating the damn DLC. Like, if you're one of those like sadistic people that's like, I don't use summons because I'm gonna cock up my ass, you know, then obviously you're probably not gonna get them because you're one of those people. But you know, for most people that just want to casually play the fucking game, you kind of need it.
From Software says that Shadow of the Erdtree is the only expansion Elden Ring.
My view on it is if you ain't making money off of it, shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. Oh, use the fucking summons because they ruin the flow of the day. You making money off of it? Are the devs paying you to say that? If not, shut the fuck up. Everyone plays their own way. Even the developer said he used summons. Shut up.
So it's fortunate.
God damn.
A better DLC than this.
Fucking trying to be an elitist over every fucking thing, man. Shut the fuck up.
Everything that I loved about the original has been condensed into an incredibly tight package.
Did you beat the game? Fuck yeah, man. That's what's up.
And can only really be considered small in comparison.
Fuck out of here. I gotta make it harder on myself for stupid asses. Come on. That was going around quite a bit. I noticed that a lot of streamers that I watch that refused to play anything in the easiest difficulty started playing stuff the way they wanted to. And then they got it brought up into them and they were like, I'm gonna play it the way I want to play it, and if you don't like it, and you know why that is because the game was so fucking hard, they didn't have a choice. They weren't gonna beat it otherwise, and all they were gonna do is get angry and start, like, saying negative things about the game. So they coped. They did what they had to do to make the game fun, and not bullshit. And that's what that is, that's bullshit. Like, oh, I'm gonna hop into someone's stream. What, you're using summons? Fuck off. No, go away. No, go away, man. Are you the one making money off? And you know what's really kind of frustrating is that people that do that shit, they don't even play the game. They don't even play it. That's what really kind of pisses me off. It's like, dude, you don't even play the fucking game. Like, how can you sit there and blame someone else for doing so, or better yet, they get into it and they have to use the summons because it's too fucking hard. Like, what? Bro, get the fuck out of here, man. People are just ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
As well as cool new weapons, spells, ashes of war, spirit ashes, talismans, and more to play around with and use to find even more novel ways to tackle its memorably brutal battles. Add on some very interesting lore revelations, not to mention the same spectacular visual design and stellar music that accompanies its larger-than-life bosses, and you've got what is certainly one of the best DLC expansions.
Hey, I'll take that. Again, I can't give it more than a 9, because it doesn't have true cross-platform. But, alright IGN. It's not so much the good games that we have problems with, it's the trash ones that they won't rate lower than 7. That's the issue that I'm seeing a lot of. Outlaws, Concord, like, those games shouldn't have been 7s. They should have been, like, 2s and 3s and 4s. Like, let's be fucking honest. They were trash. They were garbo. Like, Concord got cut down in 2 weeks. Fucking Star Wars Outlaw didn't even have, an actual launch. They were just straight shit on. It doesn't matter. But when people go to the site for reviews and they're getting a 7 on a game that should be a 3, obviously that's a problem. What else do we got? We did the Elden Ring. Oh, Final Fantasy. We'll do Final Fantasy next and see what their review is. Oh shit, no, GTA. We'll do GTA first because I just crossed it out by accident. I'm gonna use the bathroom first. GTA 5? Is it this? Yeah. Now, I can see GTA not having... Not really, because when they released it, it wasn't, like, buggy. I don't think. We'll see. Let me use the bathroom first. Oh, okay. Ah. Ah.
If there's one problem that open-world games usually struggle to overcome, it's the tension between the stories that the writers are trying to tell and the story you create yourself within its systems and its world. What makes Grand Theft Auto 5 such an outstanding
Oh, what the
achievement
fuck?
is that it accommodates
It only
both,
goes to
not
720.
allowing one
Ew.
to undermine the other. It gives you tremendous freedom to explore an extraordinarily
Disgusting.
well-realized world and tells a story that's gripping, thrilling, and darkly comic. In nearly every way, it is a leap forward in sophistication for the
He
series.
sits on his ass all day, smoking dope and jerking off while he plays that f***ing game.
Hey man, what's wrong with that?
GTA 5 is
Okay, look. Call me a piece of shit. But if I had the amount of money that he has and the house that he has, I wouldn't care. Cause like, for me, if I ever make it big, yeah, I'm gonna send him to school. You know, I'm gonna get a big ass house. It'll probably be bigger than Michael's. And mostly because I want to have a property where I can move my friends who are also having hard times like me. Some of them can't even pay their fucking rent. They're going through eviction and stuff. I want to move them and get them into stable lives on a property that I own and tell them, do what you got to do. Stay here forever. Stay here for a little time. Whatever you got to do to get your health in order, whatever you got to do to get your self on track, do it. If that involves just staying there, living rent-free for fucking who knows how long, then so be it. If that involves you, you know, getting up and moving on because you feel like, you know, it's being catered to a little too much, then that's your business. And I kind of feel like I might feel that way if I had kids too. I might make them like little homes on the property itself and let them just stay there indefinitely, especially in today's world. You know, like, fuck, good luck trying to get out and get your own apartment. Shit's expensive. Ain't no way you're gonna afford no $1,200 a fucking month when all the jobs are offering barely $800 every 2 weeks. It's just not gonna happen. It's not realistic. It's not gonna happen. So, like, that's just kind of my feel on it, is like, what's the point of trying to hassle them out the house? Like, obviously, it's not feasible.
taking aim at post-economic crisis America.
If you want them out the house that goddamn bad, you shouldn't have had them. Like, and I'm not trying to throw fingers at anybody, but in today's economy, it's just fucking ridiculous. Like, fuck. You're better off letting them stay there and then charging them for the room. Like, at least you can get like maybe $200 or $300 out of them a month. Then like, shit.
relentlessly ripping into its materialism, superficiality, corruption, and hypocrisy.
They're shooting porno here.
They shoot porno all over town. Mom rented our house to them last summer.
What? Your house?
Yeah.
Man, you got a killer pack.
Yeah, I was thinking about that too. I was thinking honestly about straight up leaving the US. I'm not sure 100% where I would move to, but at this point in time, I've been contemplating leaving the US for almost 2 years now. So, and it's not like I'm thinking about it. It's I want to leave the US. It's bad. Like, we have a system that's not working, and we keep getting told by rich people that it's working, and obviously we're just being lied to. So, it's working for them, but it's not working for the average Joe. It's not. It's getting worse for the average Joe, and it's getting better for them because they're getting rich. So, of course, there's nothing wrong with it on their part. We're just dumbasses for thinking that there's a problem with it, right? That's the mentality.
Isn't it awesome?
If GTA 4 is a targeted assassination of the American dream, GTA 5 takes aim at the modern American reality. It rips into the millennial generation, celebrities, the far right, the far left, the middle class, the media. Nothing is safe, including modern video games.
Go away.
Damn! There it is!
Attention to detail that goes into making its enormous world feel
They really
alive
blocked
and
that out!
believable is also what makes its satire so biting.
That must feel good. What a proud patriot you are.
At the same time, it's immediately noticeable that every aspect of Grand Theft Auto 5's fundamental design has been greatly improved over GTA 4. The cover system is more reliable, the auto-aim less touchy, Cars handle less
I like that you can switch in between the characters. I love that mechanic.
Still leaves plenty of room for spectacular wipeouts.
Boom!
Grand Theft Auto 5's plot happily operates at the boundaries.
It's so sad when you beat the game because you're just like, fuck, man, is that it?
I was just
I
lost
wanted
in the
more.
80s movie fantasy.
Yeah, I can see you spend a lot of time there.
The well-written and acted interplay between them provides the story's biggest.
Yo, he's not wearing pants.
Moments. And the way that their relationships with one another develop gives the narrative its power. Michael is a retired con man in his 40s who settled down in a Vinewood Hills mansion with a family that pretty much hates him.
Mom was right about you. You don't know any better and you can't help it, but you're an asshole.
Franklin is a young man from downtown Los Santos who laments the gangbanger stereotype even as he's reluctantly seduced by the prospect of a bigger score.
So you giving me a lecture about not being a good enough
Oh yeah, for sure. So like, not only, I think it should go up to an 11 because it's got multiplayer online as well. And like, people have made whole careers off of the RP on this. I feel like it should be at least an 11. 10 doesn't cut it, because this thing has a massive multiplayer online base. And you can do heists and stuff with your friends. Like, not only did this game destroy the single-player base, it fucking destroyed the multiplayer base. This game's been around for 10 years now. And it's still going strong, too. Everything still holds up to it, so I think it should be at least an 11. Shit, ain't no reason why this should be any less than a
Then there's Trevor.
Than a 10. If it's less than a 10, no. There are parts in here that you didn't see, but you can find these like magical like plants in the game, and you can turn into like a dolphin and a dog, and I think you can turn into a bird too, and you can fly around and shit. It's crazy.
Look, this is all I've got, all right? I had a tough upbringing. My daddy was not nice to me.
Oh, hey there, Trevor. Trevor feels like a bit of a get-out-of-jail-free card for Rockstar, providing an outlet for all the preposterous antics and murderous behavior. I found his violent insanity a little overblown and tiresome at first, but then his over-the-top missions become some of Grand Theft Auto 5's highlights. Importantly, switching between the characters is a brilliant way of accommodating both serious storytelling and wanton mayhem. That alleviates some of the narrative inconsistency that troubled Grand Theft Auto 4. It's effective. Even off mission, I found myself acting like a midlife crisis guy with anger issues as Michael, a thrill seeker as Franklin, and a maniac as Trevor. Each also has a special ability, like Franklin's slow-motion driving, which gives them a unique touch.
See, I don't like using their abilities, because like Grand Theft Auto 4 didn't have that, and none of the other ones did. So to me, it kind of feels like cheating, and I know it's not, and it's a part of the game, and I would never like hate on anybody that did that, but that's like one of the main reasons why I never really used it is because like, I'm old school. Like, I played all the original Grand Theft Autos, even the ones for the PlayStation Portable, and to me, like, whenever they added this in, I was like, huh, I'm never going to remember to use this because I'm going to go back into like OG Grand Theft Auto mode and I'm not even going to remember this. Like, it actually took me a while to remember that I could even switch characters whenever I played it originally. So like, well, I mean, I think if you stay away from certain side missions, like that one where they were doing that thing in the backyard, I didn't know that. I was like, oh shit. But if you stay away from like some of the side missions, it should be good. I think most of the missions that you saw were main quests after like a certain point. I think. But yeah, I would just be cautious with that, because you'd be surprised.
If Grand Theft Auto 4's Liberty City felt like a living city, San Andreas feels like a living world, and it contains a bewildering multiplicity of things to do. The missions are an able guide to both San Andreas' locations and its activities, touring you around the map and whetting your appetite for independent exploration. It pushes the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3 further than it has any right to, and it looks incredible. The biggest jump in quality since Grand Theft Auto 4 is the character animation, but the world is also much more detailed and populous. San Andreas' extraordinary sense of place is heightened by the fact that so much of it isn't on the map. There's such a lot going on that it's easy to find things organically, without the need to spend your life following a mission marker. I once stole a passenger jet from the airport for the hell of it.
Yeah, you can do that.
To the top of the tallest building in Los Santos. I bought an expensive mountain bike and cycled around in the hills enjoying the view. The music selection is also typically excellent, leading to many of those serendipitous moments where you're driving along and the perfect song comes on the radio. These little moments can be captured on your phone.
Yeah, you can't play the music though.
You can also take selfies.
Get your copyright. That's why she didn't play it.
The price we pay for all of this is occasional frame rate dips and texture pop-in, which I found became more prominent the longer I played.
That's all been fixed. That's no longer an issue at all.
For such a gigantic and flexible world, it's also remarkably bug-free. I encountered just 3 minor ones in the 35 hours I spent on my first playthrough.
It's kind of funny because in Grand Theft Auto 4, they had this thing called the Swing of Death. And it was like this bugged swing set that they were never able to fix. Ever. They could not fix it. They tried so many times to fix this bug, but they couldn't do it. And what it is it's a swing set in a playground not far from the player's house. And if you go there and you just run into the swing, it will like slingshot you into oblivion. Like, it'll either, it does some funky shit. Sometimes it'll like throw you on the ground. It'll like, you'll walk into it and it'll go BAM! And you like hit the fucking ground really hard. And other times you just go flying out of the map. Like, just clear across the map. On YouTube, I mean, for the most part, they just take the revenue from the video. But I ain't got no fucking revenue, so take it. As long as I get the watch hours, I don't give a fuck. Give a fuck? Ain't nobody watching this anyway. I mean, I do whenever the stream ends, but like, not enough to make a fucking impact. That's why now, while I'm still trying to grow, I was like, I better jump into this shit while I'm still trying to grow. So that way, like, if I do get it, then it doesn't matter. But I think there's a difference between getting a copyright, like, video and, like, an actual, like, strike. Like, a strike is something that can hardcore negatively affect your channel. And if I get one of those and then, the stream comes up missing, that's probably why. And I'll have to be a little bit more cautious. Obviously, I will be. But, like, as long as I don't get one of those, usually you only get it if, like, someone, like, reports your channel or something, like, actually bad happens, then you get a strike. And I think 3 strikes and they delete your channel. But they do drop off. It just takes a while. You just have to be very, like, I mean, you just follow the rules and they won't really get pissed. Like, music is different. Like on Twitch, if you're playing something that gets copyright, they just block that. They just silence that part of the stream. On YouTube, they just like, you shit got copyright, man. Stop doing it. And you just be like, oh, they can have the revenue. I don't care. Yeah, because I'm not getting any. They ain't gonna get what I don't have. So doesn't matter to me. Now, if someone's actually needs that money, then they do something about it. But I may not even be able to get strikes until I start making revenue. So there's that as well. So like, it's a couple things. It's weird.
The story that Grand Theft Auto 5 tells through its missions takes full advantage of all this variety beyond the simple joys of driving and shooting. The days of drive here, find this guy, shoot this guy are behind us. You never know what you're going to end up.
Usually it's music. Usually the game has music in it that's copyright. Like if you, anytime you boot into a game, you always want to go to your settings, your sound settings, and browse through your settings and make sure there's not like a copyright box on there. You always want to go through and take your music box and you want to slide that bitch off. You don't ever want to play radio stations that are in the game. If it's not in a cutscene and you walk around and you hear a radio, that's copyright. You just got to immediately tell yourself that's copyright. Sometimes, like in Grand Theft Auto, the sirens, the sound of the sirens, the police sirens, those are copyright. People were getting flagged with that in the RP servers that Twitch does. So you just got to be kind of mindful with every sound. That's like, I guess the sirens would be the exception. But for the most part, if there's music that's like headbanger music like in Cyberpunk, or in Grand Theft Auto when you're listening to the radio, or for Fallout, the radio stations that they play, that's all copyright. All of it. You don't own the rights to that. Bethesda does, but you don't. So you have to keep that in mind. Now, the music that plays in cutscenes, that's different. That's not optional. We can't skip it. We can't turn it off. That's not our fault. That's the mentality that I've adopted. Yeah, it's usually always music. I can almost promise you it's music. And in some games, like in Uncharted 3, a lot of my videos got hit with copyright because of the fucking music that plays in the cutscene. Sometimes the contracts for them go up for the game, and they don't renew them. And that's just how it is. Like, again, it doesn't affect me right now. I don't think it ever will, because I doubt anyone's going to go through and watch them once my channel, if it ever decides that it's going to fucking take off, it's not going to matter to me. And even if it does, I'll just hire an editor to fix it. So, but that's kind of how it is, you know? It's just, you got to be mindful whenever you play anything. You have to be very, like, aware of what you're playing. Like, that's why in Stalker 2, I immediately went to the settings. I was like, all right, we got to turn some shit off. I went to it took me a little bit in Cyberpunk, because I didn't hear the music, but I found the music thing, I shut that shit off. Like you gotta, like, go through and you gotta be very meticulous about everything. Even in, like, small games, you just gotta be very mindful. They get you.
Doing. Even missions that would otherwise be formulaic are imbued with novelty and excitement by the potential to play them from 3 different viewpoints. In this shootout, Trevor's firing RPGs from a rooftop as Michael and Franklin flank the enemy on the ground.
Any issue I've had has always been music.
Rockstar has finally slain one of GTA's most persistent demons, mission checkpointing, ensuring that you'll never have to do a long, tedious drive 6 times if you repeatedly fail a mission ever again. It's the heists, multi-stage.
That's just the name of the game.
Story's climactic
unfortunately,
that show Grand Theft Auto 5 at its most ambitious and accomplished. Usually each offers a choice between a more involved, stealthier approach and a guns blazing option that will be less tense but more explosively chaotic. All of GTA 5's missions are replayable at any time, letting you relive favourite moments or try out another approach. Sometimes your own approach won't be the way that Rockstar's designers...
I'm gonna give it a -1 for this. When you replay the missions, you don't get the money. Why would I replay the mission? You know, like, what's the point of replaying the mission if you don't even get any of the benefits from it? I'm not going to replay something if I'm not getting anything out of it. Why would I do that? That's dumb.
Expected.
I'd say it's a 10. I forgot about that.
Around you when that happens, there were 1 or 2 occasions where it wasn't prepared for my personal brand of chaos. Most of the time, the scripting is good enough to be invisible, but when it's not, you really notice it, if only because it's otherwise so seamless. It's worth mentioning.
Well, right now, like I said, I don't think I've gotten any, but I haven't really checked. I don't really care if I get copyright because it doesn't affect me. I'm not making money off of this, and whoever decides to go through my channel and copyright me, yeah, keep looking through my videos. I don't fucking care. You're giving me watch hours. I still get the watch hours. I don't fucking care. But, like, I own the music that you hear. I own a subscription for that. I use Artlist. So that music is mine. I pay for the yearly subscription to that shit. And if they start copy hitting me, then I'm going to file a complaint, and they don't want that. Now, I haven't had any issues. I haven't had any issues with any of the music people that I've used. I've used Epidemic Sound, and I've used the new one I got is Artlist. That's the reason why I didn't have music for a couple days. But yeah, no, like, you can get that. It's not free. I think Artlist was like $500 for a year, and fucking Epidemic is like $130 for a year. But Artlist has, like, GIFs and stuff that I can use for videos editing, and, like, it has, like, this new AI thing that looks interesting that I want to test out. I just haven't had the time to. It's gonna be in my new video whenever I finally sit down and keep revising the script on it. But like I said, like, any game you jump into, you gotta go in that bitch and shut that fucking music off. And with So, like, it's weird for YouTube videos. I've noticed that if you watch videos on YouTube, a lot of people, when you buy these music subscriptions, there's like 2 different versions of the subscription that you can get. It's the industrial version, which means that you can use it and then other people can use it as well. So that way, like, the music that's playing on this video, I don't know, but if it's industrial, I'm not going to get hit with a copyright. But if it isn't, then I'm probably going to get hit with a copyright, but I just, like I said, I just don't fucking care. But if it's, and usually they charge more for the industrial version. You can use it on like commercials and stuff. If you make commercials, like it's a process. But if you get hit with a copyright, it just kind of happens. Like, there's not really much you can do about it. Like, if I actually started making money off of YouTube, I'd be like, okay, we gotta have to change something up, but I just don't care. And for the most part, if you sit down and do a 9-hour stream, a lot of people aren't gonna sit there and skim through it. Like, a company's not gonna skim through that. Like, usually it's a bot that finds it, but a bot only goes through like the first, like, 7-8 minutes of the stream. And if they don't find anything, they just kind of fuck off. And the first 7-8 minutes or 5 minutes is usually like my own music, so I do that on purpose.
Mentioning that when it comes to sex, drugs, and violence, GTA 5 pushes boundaries much further than ever before.
You shitting me? No.
I'm surprised that turned out the way it did for that guy.
A lot here that will provoke moral
I
history.
wasn't expecting that guy to get fucked up.
Are we still gonna cook that batch?
Yeah!
It's deliciously subversive and firmly tongue-in-cheek. But once or twice it pushes the boundaries of taste, too. There's one particular scene, a torture scene in which you have no choice but to participate, that I found so troubling I had difficulty playing it.
Oh, bitch, please. I'll get the fuck out of here.
To torture post 9/11, it's a shocking moment that will attract justified controversy.
Oh, fuck
Some
off.
other stuff, like the ever-present prostitution and extensive strip club minigames,
Oh,
feel like
fuck.
it's just there because
Get
it
the
can be, rather
fuck
than
outta
because
here.
it has anything to say. But there's nothing in San Andreas that doesn't serve Rockstar's purpose in creating an exaggerated projection of America that's suffused with crime, violence...
Is it really that exaggerated? I mean, nowadays it seems like it's pretty accurate, other than like this.
enjoyable video game, but also an intelligent, wickedly comic, and bitingly relevant commentary.
I'd say
on
this is
contemporary
exaggerated.
It represents a refinement of everything that GTA 4 brought to the table 5 years ago. It's technically more accomplished in every conceivable way, but it's also tremendously ambitious in its own right. No other world in video games comes close to this in size or scope, and there is sharp intelligence behind its sense of humor and gift for mayhem. It tells a compelling, unpredictable, and provocative story without ever letting it get in the way of your own self-directed adventures through San Andreas. It is one of the very best video games ever made.
Well, that's a bit of a stretch. Okay, that's a bit of a stretch. One of the best video games ever. That's a bit of a stretch, okay? Let's dial it back a little bit, huh? A little overexcited for that early review, huh? 15. Yeah, we got... I love this fucking game. I love Final Fantasy 15. We'll do 15, 16, and 7. The movie for this game is phenomenal. It tells you what happens with his dad and stuff. So good. So good.
Final Fantasy 15
Yeah, I know, right?
quite fittingly with a splash screen that reads, "A Final Fantasy for fans and first-timers." Having played every numbered entry since the first, I saw both reverence for the old and a courtship of the new in this latest chapter. I'd like to say that it's an elegant fusion of the two, but in reality, it's more of a duality. A conflict that reaches into nearly every aspect of Final Fantasy 15.
Man, these people need to learn what fucking quality is.
Its four protagonists
Oh, unfortunately, I won't be moving to Streamlabs. I'm just gonna have to wait it out and hope that they update this. Because there's not much that I can do about it. It's all based around the new updates that they did with OBS and the multi-stream free version. There's not a damn thing I can do about it. It was fine up until I updated it, and now that I updated it, it's fucked. I knew better than to update it, but we're just gonna have to grit our teeth until either someone makes a better multi-stream or something changes. I don't know.
Together,
maybe they'll update it again and it'll get
design
fixed.
and story elements threaten to fall apart.
I love the customizations, the story, the music, the characters. I got so entwined in that game. So fucking good.
Uniting to face evil.
So good.
Close, longtime friends, and it's this closeness that gives Final Fantasy XV's often incoherent story all the heart that it has. While the danger that befalls the land of Lucis never truly materializes until the end of the 40-hour tale, and the would-be romantic element is a non-starter, the kinship of these four is fleshed out and reinforced beautifully, whether in combat, on the road, or anywhere in between.
Buck up, we're just getting started.
Fully real-time combat replaces the turn-based systems of the past. And
I love that.
Feel like a traditional Final Fantasy in any regard. The way it makes you and
the
your
combat is so good.
Cohesive fighting unit,
like whenever you would activate some of the god mode abilities and stuff, dude, you felt so OP. It was so good.
Beautifully animated team-up attacks, and commanding one of your buds to use one of their stylish-looking special attacks at just the right moment can be a literal blast.
It is. It's a fun game to play.
Especially here, the banter flies as they cheer each other on and pick one another up when they fall. They turn monster
It ends very sadly, but like, fuck, it's so good.
No big deal.
One of the few games where I was like, man, I really didn't want it to end that way.
Actually quite thin.
But I think there are like multiple endings. I think I usually got the good one, where like even though he like dies, he gets the good ending.
And with both magic and the awe-inspiring summons playing such a disappointingly
The summons are so cool.
there just aren't a lot of interesting decisions to make or techniques to master.
What?
Unless you count wrestling with the sometimes unruly camera. Especially in enclosed spaces, and even during some climactic boss fights, the camera becomes your biggest enemy.
You can recenter it by clicking R3, bro. What are you talking about?
The open world of Lucis is huge, and its towering geographic features and sweeping wide-open plains give it a rare sense of scale. Though exploring it was easily my favorite part of Final Fantasy XV, the logistics of it take some getting used to at first. You'll need to think about chocobo rentals for long off-road trips, where to spend the night, and even what to eat. Though initially inconvenient, it makes the simple act of getting from A to B feel like an actual trip. There are fast travel options between previously explored points, but generally, you have to make the journey at least once.
You can make the car fly?
Regimented structure.
What? Is that a glitch or is that real?
Also gave the relationships between the characters time to develop in innumerable little ways. But there's more than just bromance on the open road. There are tons of side missions to participate in, treasures to find, hidden dungeons to uncover, and Imperial outposts to raid. It's all a little bit spread out, but I was always engaged in one way or another. It's just a shame that the story more or less drops the open world for most
I didn't know
of
you
its
could do
second
that.
half, in favor of some extremely linear and generally less visually interesting settings. One particularly painful area temporarily strips Noctis of his friends and his powers, forcing him down narrow corridor after narrow corridor for almost 2 hours.
He just said he stripped him of his power. He's using his power right there. What the fuck you talking about?
Could have gone back to the open world to take a breather when I needed to, but I don't want to have to choose between advancing the story
Really?
and having fun. And that's a decision that 15's back third had me constantly making.
No, I don't think so.
When I'm riding chocobos across the beach at dusk with my 3 friends and hunting iconic Final Fantasy monsters in the open world, Final Fantasy XV feels like nearly everything I could want from a modern Final Fantasy. But when it funnels me into linear scenarios and drab constricted spaces that plunge the combat into chaos, my blood boils. There's just so much good here.
8.2
between Noctis and his sworn brothers.
What the
It just
fuck?
comes with changes and compromises that
That-
were at
fuck that
times
review.
difficult for this
That's
long-time
terrible
Final
review.
Fantasy fan to come to
9.
grips with.
Give it a 9.
For more
Fuck that
Final
review.
Fantasy 15, check out our first
What a dick.
15 minutes
Get outta
and
here,
our
bro.
PS4 versus PS4 Pro.
What is even an 8.2? How is that even a point system? 8.2? I didn't think you could do 8.2. I thought it would be like 8.5, like 8.5. The fuck is 8.2? I can honestly say I wasn't much of a big fan of this one. I didn't like how many. So they made so many like story things in this, like not stories but cutscenes, because they wanted to break a record, but it like took away from the entire vibe of the game. Like, man, I do one thing and I'm in a cutscene for like 15 fucking minutes. It was so irritating.
Go in entirely fresh. You can leave knowing that Final Fantasy XVI is one of my favorites in the series to date. Okay, you've been spoiler warned. Now, on with the review.
That's funny.
Even with 16 mainline entries, 20 if you include X2, 13.2, Lightning Returns, and Final Fantasy VII Remake, and a slew of spin-offs, there's no Final Fantasy game quite like Final Fantasy XVI. The latest in this legendary series is more an evolution of the character action genre than the RPG.
I do like the combat.
It merges quick twitch reflexes with character building RPG mechanics.
Yeah, the story is like,
Than ever before.
so like it's kind of like being fed by a bird. You know, like whenever you're just like, I'm hungry, and then the mother just like eats a fucking elephant and just throws up into your face, and you just can't. That's kind of how the game feels.
FF16's epic 50+ hour story. It's packed with
like I want to get involved in the story, but at the same time, it's so long that I'm just like, dude, what is going on anymore? I don't even think I got a quarter of the way through the fucking game, and I was just like, I can't do this. I just can't. I can't do it. The gameplay was really good, though.
Final Fantasy XVI picks up the ball that FF14 got rolling and continues to move the series back down the path of high fantasy, taking more than a little inspiration from Game of Thrones along the way. Its story spans decades worth of history in the realm of Valistia, a land brimming with both beauty and death as an encroaching blight forces neighboring kingdoms to fight over untainted resources, including 5 enormous mother crystals that are the primary source of the realm's magic. At the heart of this tale is your character, Clive Rossfield, the eldest prince of the kingdom of Rosaria and protector of his brother Joshua, the dominant of Phoenix. And if you don't know what that is, don't worry, we'll get to it later, but let's not get bogged down in jargon for now. Clive is a fantastic, well-rounded protagonist, brilliantly brought to life by actor Ben Starr. He undergoes a lot of change and development over the course of the decades-long story, but always remains supremely likable, relatable, and an absolute badass when the need arises, as it very often does.
We've played your
Really? I guess I could. I can't really relate to that because, like, for me,
The cast is fantastic as well.
I tried Final Fantasy X and I could never beat it because of the turn-based mechanics. I don't like turn-based. Can't do them.
Understands and empathizes with Clive on a deep and emotional level, and the tender scenes between them are always.
Like, there's nothing worse than whenever you sit there and grind out levels, and you get to a boss and it just like one hits your entire party, and I'm just like, nah, I'm good. It just like insta wipes you. It's crap.
He's got an almost young Liam Neeson vibe going on, despite being voiced impeccably by Ralph.
Young Liam Neeson, what the fuck?
In the world of video games.
Then at least have the decency to join me for supper.
Sid is a natural leader, full of charisma and charm, and without going into detail, his cause is one that's very easy to rally behind and made me excited to follow him and his band of outlaws. The greatest achievement of Final Fantasy XVI's story, though, is how it never leaves you to drown in its lore. This is a massive world complete with 5 kingdoms, each with their own forms of government, rulers, religions, and ideals. A whole encyclopedia's worth of realm-specific terms like bearers, icons, and dominants, and a grand history of the world that you're expected to keep up with if you want to get the most out of the big story beats. It would all be a little overwhelming if not for an ingenious quality of life feature that I truly hope becomes standard throughout all story-heavy video games: active time lore. At any point during any main story cutscene or conversation, you can hold down the DualSense touchpad to bring up a series of contextual compendium entries that are relevant to what's going on.
Shit, that drove me even more crazy. Cause like, I'd just sit there for a fucking 20-minute cutscene, I'd be done with that bitch, and then this thing would pop up on my screen that's like, you want to learn more? And I'm like, fuck no, I want to play the game! Last thing I want to do is sit here and read.
That scene. So, anytime a character mentioned a term, character, or location that I either didn't know about or needed a reminder about,
They're freed Imperial bearers.
I could bring up the active time lore and a succinct entry would be right there to get me up to speed. These entries change with the events of the story too, updating with new information about the state of the world and Clive's knowledge about it as it happens. Having this kind of feature was a godsend. Later on, big missions are also preceded with stylish history lessons by your crew's scholar that fill you in on what you need to know about the region you're about to visit, who the rulers are, their ambitions, their allies, their enemies, and so on. I know that might sound like school, but it actually did a really effective job of bringing me into and keeping me invested in the realm of Valistia.
Man, just like thinking about it stresses me out, man. The cutscenes in this game are so fucking long. And it's like, it's not that they were long, they were so fucking dominant over the entire game. You would do like one thing and you would get like a 10-minute cutscene. Do one thing, you got a 15-minute cutscene. Do one thing, get like a 20-minute cutscene. Do one thing, another 5-minute cutscene. And it's like, dude, fuck, like, I just want to play the game. Like, I would sit there and be screaming. I'd be like, I just want to play the fucking game! And when I want to skip it, but at the same time I don't, because I might miss something that's key to the fucking game. And it's like, it's frustrating. I don't like that.
They do, it's an unforgettable scrap of gargantuan proportion. I'd be remiss to spoil these encounters by talking too much about them, but I will say
because like in this instance, if you were to skip the cutscene before, you would end up in this and you'd be like, what? You know, like that's the kind of shit I'm referring to. Because you'd be straight in this and you'd be getting your ass beat by this fucking creature and you're like, you know?
Spectacles. Some are like,
how did this happen? Because you didn't watch the cutscene.
Others take the gameplay in a completely different direction and play out like a Panzer Dragoon level. But nearly all of them brought back memories of playing Asura's Wrath or God of War 3 and that feeling of just being absolutely floored by the breathtaking sense of scale.
I could see that. I did really enjoy these scenes. I do really like that they have these in there. That's what I'm saying. Like, the gameplay is beyond phenomenal. But the cutscenes drown everything out, and it's so sad because the combat's really good. It's just drowned. It's drowned by so many cutscenes.
Power.
Like, that's so cool.
Been shifting further and further away from its turn-based RPG roots for a long time now, and with Final Fantasy XVI, it feels like a metamorphosis that has been in the works for years is finally complete. Final Fantasy XVI's combat is a straight-up action game. Full stop. It's fast, flexible, extremely reflex-driven.
Yeah, it is.
Full of opportunities to absolutely
really good.
On your enemies with air combos, jump cancels, and a huge arsenal.
And the leveling system is really good too.
Some sacrifices are made to facilitate this transformation. You only ever control one character. Levels are far more linear than they've been in the past, and many of the actual RPG elements have been made to play second fiddle in ways I'll discuss shortly. Purists might not be a fan of these drastic changes, but I found this approach far more preferable to FF15's more hybrid take on combat, and equally enjoyable to FF7 Remake's unique take. Despite how chaotic the action may look, it's actually elegantly simple once you break it down. Clive can execute a 4-hit melee combo by mashing square, he can shoot magic with triangle to hit enemies at a distance, he can use an ability unique to whatever icon power he currently has equipped, and he also has access to up to 2 abilities from that icon as well. In familiar Final Fantasy fashion, for bigger enemies and bosses, there's a stagger meter that you can fill by landing attacks, and once it's full, they can be put into a staggered state, giving you an opportunity to build up a multiplier and lay down huge amounts of damage for a limited amount of time. Much of the skill involved with combat comes from your ability to quickly stagger enemies, and then maximize the amount of damage you're able to do while they're staggered by optimally using your skills and switching between your icons. To that end, there's a lot of smart mechanics in place that reward skillful play. If you just mash the attack button, you won't build up stagger very quickly. But if you use carefully timed magic attacks in between your melee attacks, you'll execute magic bursts, which do more damage and build more stagger. On top of that, perfectly timed evasions give opportunity for counterattacks that deal big stagger damage, or if you're feeling extra fancy, you could try to time an attack to clash with theirs to trigger a parry, which slows down time and allows for even more punishment. It's a great combat system that kept my brain firing at a rapid pace.
No, yeah, like, I have no complaints with the gameplay. I fucking enjoyed the gameplay.
On top of just
But
trying
man, I couldn't do those cutscenes anymore.
an important element of any action game in my book.
It really sucks too, because like it's such a good combat system.
One of my favorite touches is that you can issue commands to your Hound Torgal, one of which will launch weaker enemies, allowing me to zip right to them in the air, juggle them with some quick aerial hits, and then send them crashing back down with an explosive Helm Splitter style attack. All that said, this is a long game, and while you do pretty regularly get new icons and abilities, they don't change up combat in ways that make the basic fights substantially different or more engaging, which means they do eventually lose some of their luster. That isn't helped by lots of recycled enemy types in the open fields and linear dungeons that you explore either. At least the bosses were always fresh and exciting, with many playing with some fun Final Fantasy tropes like having the names of big attacks show up on screen, and some exceptionally dangerous techniques even having a countdown that ends with an extremely powerful blow if you're unable to do enough damage to stop them from getting it off. Many of the bigger boss battles also have QTEs that do a wonderful job of adding extra cinematic flair and punctuate the different phases of a fight with some truly awesome moments.
Take a beating.
As touched upon earlier, the weird twist of Final Fantasy XVI is that while the action elements are all top-notch, the RPG elements are a little underdeveloped. Loot seems like an afterthought. I never once felt incentivized to explore either the corners of the linear main levels or the open fields of the interconnected overworld.
Well, that's your thing, dude. I fucking did. I loved exploring.
Building choices
What?
that you can make to customize Clive in any sort of unique way.
That's your thing. I never felt like
3 accessories that can have a variety of useful effects, usually powering up specific special abilities, increasing your combo damage, or increasing healing potency. You also begin with a total of 5 special rings that are designed to take some of the edge off of combat in lieu of lower difficulty modes. One essentially lets you mash square and let the AI take the wheel as it automatically casts spells, switches icons, and uses basic attacks, while another will automatically dodge as long as an attack is capable of being avoided. While I personally didn't feel the need to use these rings, I do appreciate their inclusion as a completely optional way to adjust the difficulty in very specific ways.
yeah, it's like a difficulty slider, I
If
think.
you equip them, you won't have the space for other stat-altering accessories, thus removing the one element of RPG-like customization altogether. But where Final Fantasy XVI really impressed me was in the quality of its side quests. Well, eventually. They actually start out pretty generic and menial, with objectives like finding X number of Y items out in
Yeah,
the
I got really tired of that really quickly too.
to people in the hideout.
A lot of them really
in the
suck.
back half of the story, these side quests act as smart ways to button up all of the loose threads outside of the main campaign. Side characters are given proper send-offs, pieces that were toppled over in the central story are satisfyingly built back up, and characters that you wouldn't really expect to have very deep backstories open up to you in often very moving ways. It's exactly the kind of side content that I want in a big RPG, even though it takes a little while to get there. In addition to side quests, there's also a bounty board that you can use to locate exceptionally challenging monsters for some greater rewards. Many of them are just stronger versions of enemies that you've already fought, but others are boss encounters unto themselves and make up some of the hardest fights available. All things
That's pretty
considered,
cool.
There's a fair amount of extra content here to keep you
I don't think
busy.
I got to. I don't even think I got to the bounty board. I know I got to that shopkeep dude.
Significantly ups both the
Maybe I did get to the bounty board.
and introduces new gear upgrades.
And maybe I just didn't actually
Beyond
find
that,
it.
There's also an arcade mode that you can use to go through previous levels and try to set high scores to upload to an online leaderboard. Needless to say, there's a lot to do even once the credits finish rolling. And oh my god, the soundtrack by Bahamut's grace the soundtrack.
The prince is with us.
Shit, my Bahamut's grace the soundtrack? What the fuck? Yeah, no, the soundtrack is really good. The cutscenes are really beautiful and really detailed. It's just that they're long.
The quiet moments of respite inside the hideaway, or the absolutely
I'd say that I'd give it like an 8 or a 9. There's a lot of content there. For $70, you get your money's worth for sure.
claim it in the top Final
Just not
Fantasy
my
soundtracks
style of
all
game.
time just yet, but it's certainly one of the best soundtracks of 2023 so far. Final Fantasy XVI looks stunning too. The performance may not hold onto a consistent.
Damn, that came out last year? That's ridiculous.
Prioritized frame rate graphical setting.
I didn't even realize that came out last year.
Still being one of the most gorgeous games I've ever played. Final Fantasy XVI
He's gonna give it a 10.
looked back upon as a turning
Watch.
point for the mainline Final Fantasy games, taking its combat fully in the direction of an action game. But I hope that conversation doesn't overshadow its dark and captivating tale, its memorable characters, and the innovative.
He's gonna give it a 10. There is content there for your money. Now, if it's the content you want, that's the hard decision. You won't know that till you start playing it.
High standards as some of the best games in the character action genre. Among other action RPGs, it's near the top of the heap. Pair all of that with one of the best soundtracks of the year, incredible performances from top to bottom, and drop-dead gorgeous visuals, and you've got a game worthy of an orchestral Final Fantasy victory fanfare.
9?16? Weird.
For more Final Fantasy
I'm kind of shocked a little bit. Yeah, 8.5 is reasonable. I figured he would go with the 10. Yeah, I feel like 8 or a 9, maybe a little bit less than a 9. Maybe like 8.5. I think you kind of hit the nail on the head with an 8.5, honestly. Is it Rebirth? I think it's Rebirth. I don't think it's Remake. Remake was the short one. Rebirth is the fully fledged game. So I have a problem with this one. So, like, I played Remake, and it took them a while to come out with Rebirth, and that's the problem. I played the first one, and then by the time they released the second the second part of it, I had no idea what the fuck was going on. It took too long. Instead of just waiting and making the full game, they took too long. I don't know what was going on.
Standing on the edge of Midgar's expressway at the end of Final Fantasy VII Remake, the seemingly infinite possibilities of what could come next left me overwhelmed with a yearning I hadn't really felt from a game before. So in several ways, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is my wildest imagination.
I didn't beat it. I got really close to the end, I think. I hope.
And party members,
but I didn't actually beat it.
Overworld into gorgeous open regions full of enjoyable
I don't know, I just got to a certain point and I was just like, I don't really feel this game anymore.
Again, stand as both a stunning reconstruction of a game I've cherished since 1997, as well as an interesting new interpretation of it.
I liked it. It made me really hyped for the rest of it, but I thought the whole game was done. I spent $70 on what was effectively a fucking intro, and I don't like that. That pissed me off. That shouldn't have been a $70 game. That should have been like maybe at the most $20.
Story and a decent chunk of side content. There's no denying that Rebirth is an amazing journey despite that, and one I'll remember fondly as
it was alright. I liked it, but then I got to a point where I was like,
fill your heart
I don't know, it's just
with rage.
The game was just so fucking long.
As soon as I stepped foot onto the grasslands, the first of 6 regions that make up Rebirth, I was stunned by its impressive scale.
It is impressive. It's a very impressive game.
Overworld shows Aerith taking in the beauty of a natural world she'd never seen before, only to have Red 13 remind us that this world is still dying from the inside.
But in reality, it's barely hanging on.
It just, to me, at the end, really, like, dragged out at the end. Really dragged out at the end. Like, so you would be in the same tomb, like, you'd be in the same area, but then the characters would get separated, and then you'd have to play as Cloud with some other people, and then once you get to a certain point, it would force you to play as the other characters, and you'd have to work your way back to that point, where you left off at Cloud, and then they would intertwine, and I was like, dude, what is all this shit? I just want to beat the game. Like, stop dragging this out. Like, I can understand if I chose to do that, but, like, I don't know. It just, like, towards the end of the game, it just felt super dragged. Now, everything else about it was great. Like, the graphics are phenomenal, the music's outstanding, the gameplay's beyond remarkable. It's just at the end, like that's the reason why I just didn't finish it. I just kept getting pulled. I kept getting slingshotted. I'd like go somewhere and then get pulled back, and I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm sorry, I can't. I was just like, the hell with it.
The destructive effect of Mako energy.
I just stopped playing it, not out of like hatred or anything. I don't know. I just didn't want to keep going.
New journey.
Of course, a game this massive also comes with a somewhat intimidating world map that has embraced many modern open world design conventions. That includes activating towers to mark tasks on your map, but Rebirth manages to transcend that well-worn trope. As I went from region to region, connecting with people and helping with their struggles, I often found compelling little side stories that uplift its human element.
I kind of feel bad for this guy. I hope they gave this guy that game like a lot in advance.
Every icon I could.
Because this guy must have been playing this fucking game for a month before he did everything.
Whatever happened, he's alive.
But why come back now?
Nearly every task rewards you with XP for your party level to advance an additional progression system called Folios, which unlocks perks and abilities for each character. The biggest additions are synergy abilities, powerful partner attacks that lay on heavy damage and can grant bonuses like extending stagger windows, filling the limit break bar, or temporarily negating all MP costs. You'll also access synergy skills that can be used on the fly to make combat more flexible. A favorite of mine was having Barrett launch Tifa into the air to get her within melee range of flying enemies.
Why don't you just use Barrett? You can shoot him down.
Complement an
yeah, he's right there.
System by filling gaps in the action, making the combat loop more complete. And having
I know the thing, man. I know how to play this game.
Charming to see.
Shooting, you using like someone up in the air. Just shoot at him with Barrett.
The returning pressure and stagger systems once again push you towards understanding combat on a deeper level, since stronger enemies won't go down through simple button mashing. Having the tactical foresight to orchestrate an offensive push that exploits an enemy's specific vulnerabilities and the skill necessary to execute it all is so rewarding, and the pressure of aggressive, unforgiving opponents really makes you work for those satisfying moments.
I don't know about that one.
While the returning
like the combat's really good, it's very satisfying, but like I don't know if I like
your party members. Yuffie can be an absolute menace now, with a party around her and a full game to build out her skill set, standing out as the most dynamic character of the bunch.
I don't know about all that. I didn't like playing as her.
Finally playable Red 13 can turn defense into offense with his vengeance fast combos and destructive abilities like Stardust Ray can make short work of enemies.
You're ruined. Just throwing that out there.
Constantly switching between characters and setting them up to play their parts offers both a constant variety in the moment-to-moment action and the satisfaction of playing the field general. However, at times, there was a little dissonance between how your party functions and what the enemy is capable of doing. Certain foes zip around the battlefield at such high speeds that even the targeting system has trouble keeping up, and getting constantly knocked back or caught in multi-hit combos is an occasional annoyance. Thankfully,
oh yeah? You don't say.
Frustration never
it is actually very annoying when that happens, but it's not like
with enough
it doesn't hinder your
preparation and
gameplay.
wits, even the hardest battles are a thrill to conquer.
That's working.
Unironically, some of the best battles are actually in the new card game, Queen's Blood. It's an outstanding addition that had me.
Queen's Blood is fun. I put so many hours into that fucking game.
That builds up around it as you progress.
Yo, that game is fun. I played so much Queen's Blood. Oh my god, like I got into that shit. Oh man. So much Queen's Blood. I won the tournament. I played so much of it.
It does take a while for it to initially come into focus. After opening with the hard-hitting flashback of the tragedy at Nibelheim, Cloud and Tifa's hometown, you'll spend a lot of time getting acquainted with the flow of the open regions and their many diversions, in between a handful of critical plot points. By front-loading a lot of those diversions...
Didn't like that. I didn't like that one. Did not like that quest. Not at all.
Don't get me wrong, many of these activities are a joy in their own right, and a few of them make...
A lot of those were so rage-baity. And the fact that they were in the game hurts my soul. They were fun!
Brevity, but a little restraint could have helped keep the focus on the parts I cared about most.
There we go.
As cool as the Junon marching minigame and the Queen's
I agree with them on that.
There's also the occasional slow-paced crate-moving puzzle or a stealth section to unlock a region's chocobo to bog down the momentum.
I like that mechanic though. That was a fun mechanic. I like that one.
On what is largely a fantastic
I'd always get to a new
revision
region
of
and do
Final
that
Fantasy
as soon as I
VII. If
could.
anything, the more robust minigames captured just how goofy the PS1 classic always was, and leading into that absurdism works wonders for staying true to its identity. Rebirth manages to strike a delicate tonal balance as well, which is impressive for a story full of darkness and sorrow. The planet's very existence is at risk, with Shinra's destructive nature and Sephiroth's calamitous ambitions looming.
The smoke rising from the rubble is reminiscent of a funeral pyre.
Cloud himself is a broken man, an unreliable narrator, and a complicated protagonist, and in the highest fidelity of
Why don't you just take a fat shit on him too while you're at it, goddamn.
Speak as loud as anything he said in the original script. Nearly every party member has their moment to shine in this arc of Final Fantasy VII, and through impeccable cinematic stylings and top-tier voice performances,
It's a good game. Like,
teetering between hope and despair.
no, it's got a lot of hours in it. Like, I'm not by any means saying anything negative about the. I mean, I kind of am in a sense, but it's a really phenomenally good game.
But there's a newfound authenticity.
To me,
to
it
the
just felt
struggles he
dragged
faces
out towards the
and
end.
painful resolutions that await him. Those modern qualities, along with the reimagined script, give additional depth to Red 13 and round him out as a more complete character too.
Because I originally got into Final Fantasy VII because I watched Advent Children, which is like a Final Fantasy VII movie. I watched that first and I was like, damn, I wish I could play this, but I can't do turn-based. And then I watched this and I'm like, I mean, I played it and I'm like, I kind of sort of think I know how this is going to end.
Inside the
but the movie kind of picks up where the game left off, so like I kind of spoiled it for myself in a sense, I think.
In our own lives. That tone lets this particular brand of storytelling strike a chord as effectively as it does, elevating Rebirth above many of its contemporaries.
We're taking off!
What? Rebuilding Final Fantasy VII's story for a new generation has also come along with the theme of defying your supposed fate, which was made explicit toward the end of Remake with the convergence of alternate timelines affecting each other. But while this new take on the classic story has the potential to be equally as powerful, it pains me to say that Rebirth fumbles the execution. Avoiding any spoilers, the events of its conclusion and the ensuing aftermath are portrayed in a way that is both convoluted and undefined, robbing it of its impact. It's a case of trying to do too much without the connective tissue to bring it all together. Cryptic messages and nuanced meanings can be well and good, but sometimes stories have to speak plainly about what is actually happening, and Rebirth does not when it needs to most. But even with the messy delivery of its conclusion, some of the new scenes surrounding that finale do offer sobering messages about grief, letting go, and the acceptance of life's eventual end. These quiet moments encourage a different kind of reflection that the original wasn't able to touch on. How we make sense of our lives and our place in a world full of tragedy is a complicated and messy endeavor that seems full of contradictions, and Rebirth makes that fittingly clear. So even though the new path these remakes are trying to forge is both fascinating and flawed, Final Fantasy VII's story once again manages to hold a poignant mirror up to our own world 27 years later.
The life stream. It is the very essence of our star. The blood coursing through its planetary veins.
Final Fantasy VII Rebirth impressively builds off of what Remake set in motion as—
Let me check on something real quick. Sure everything's going okay. Let me see. Live? Something's going on with the kick. What the fuck is going on with this fucking shit? The fuck is going on with Kick? Damn, how long has they been doing that shit? What the fuck? Been doing that shit all morning. What the fuck is going on? Hold on. Why is it doing that? Let me see. What the fuck is going on? That's fucking weird. I don't know why it's doing that. Let me see. Hold on. Let me stop the stream real quick, cause like Kick is just like it's going on and off constantly.